Perfect. We're now recording.
you.
All right. Tiffany Gonzalez is absent. Laura Lowe's.
Present.
We have Jesse Rose, I'm present. Chris Pierce.
Here.
Roger Saleh is absent.
He's
resigned,
right?
He's resigned.
Yeah, that's a vacancy, actually.
Okay. John Eugenio is absent. Scott Harris. Looks like he's absent. Scott Schaefer.
Here.
Scott Schaefer is present. Rod Gibbons.
Here.
Here. Chris Pearson.
Chris is traveling, so he's excused absence.
Absent. Jim Cousteau.
I'm present.
Victoria Brennicup.
Here.
Ed Woodruff.
Here.
Bob Ebley.
Here.
And Tim Snyder.
Here.
Perfect. So I am showing 6 absent and 1 vacancy.
Was that put us at 8?
That's correct. 8 present, 6 absent, 1 vacancy.
Okay. All right. So we have a quorum. We are elected or appointed non-paid members of our community. We are charged to advise the county on discretionary projects, as well as planning and land use matters that are proposed within our community planning group area. So I'm going to share my screen and bring up the agenda.
Mr.
And-
Chair, I count 9 people when I look at the pictures of everybody.
Okay, Jesse, you want to roll through who is here?
John just came in.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
John Eugenio is here now.
I just got on.
Okay.
Was that your 9th, Laura?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, good. All right. So this meeting is recorded to provide a purpose of preparation of the meeting minutes. We're going to start with public communications, an opportunity for the public to speak to the planning group on any subject matter within our jurisdiction that is not on the posted agenda. I will advise everybody who's speaking this evening, we have a pretty full agenda. So if you can keep it as brief as possible, that would be much appreciated. And Victoria, if you'd go ahead and say who's here from the public for speaking.
Absolutely. Becky Rapp, I see your hands raised.
Yes, good evening. My name is Becky Rapp, and I am a San Diego County resident, and I'm here as a parent concerned regarding the marijuana ordinance that the county is bringing forward. While attending the Valley Center Planning Group, I was very concerned when a resident came and spoke regarding a hemp grove that is next door to their property. The resident stated that the grow is operating 24 hours with HVAC and industrial fans and engine noises going nonstop. Lights are also on all night. Dark sky shields do not stop the illumination in most homes near the grow, and the odor is overwhelming, causing headaches and nausea even while indoors. The reason I bring this up is because residents have been contacting the city regarding code enforcement. I'm sorry, the county regarding code enforcement and compliance. But to no avail. They have gotten no response and nobody out to regulate the situation. As the county is writing the ordinance for the marijuana, it will bring grows to the unincorporated areas and regions, yet they've never solved the myriad of problems associated with hemp grows. So this is very concerning as this sets precedents moving forward as to what we have to look forward to when this marijuana ordinance comes to fruition. A SECRA review should be required for both hemp and marijuana grows, as well as setbacks and regulations stating zero odor beyond property lines. Hemp and marijuana grow projects should be required to be considered at the planning group level so that residents can have an opportunity to ask questions. These are just a few of my thoughts. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Becky. See, Victoria, do we have anybody from the public? Otherwise,
I see Sebastian has their hand raised.
Go ahead, sir.
Hey
Sebastian,
there. I'm sorry. I accidentally raised my hand. I just wanted to, sorry, I didn't mean to raise my hand. Click the button. Thank you.
that's quite all right, sir. Okay, do we have anybody else, Victoria?
Yes. Ryan Trabuco
Ryan.
from Vice Chair Nora Vargas's office.
Muted.
You're muted, Ryan.
Oh my God, I think my mouse is going, like it's running out of battery.
You're
and I
good
can't-
now.
It wouldn't unmute. Oh man, I am so sorry.
All right.
Super quick. Great to see everybody. Not a lot to report this evening. We did have Supervisor Vargas out in Spring Valley a couple of weeks ago to tour some points of interest, including Quarry Trail and some of the improvements that we're looking to do over at the Sweetwater Reservoir. We also had her take a look at Quarry Road, a couple of intersections along Sweetwater Road that have had, that's been reported to us that have had some higher number of traffic collisions. So we're going to look at, we're going to work with DPW staff on that and see if we can do some sort of traffic mitigation on some of those intersections. We also checked out some vacant Caltrans properties that we're going to follow up with county staff with the Department of Homeless Solutions and Equitable Communities. And then the last thing that I'll mention is at the last Board of Supervisors meeting, which was what, I think the 11th, October 11th, we approved $10,000 from our community enhancement budget for the Spring Valley Community Alliance towards the Community Day event for next year. And I think we did about $25,000 for the Chamber of Commerce, which is going to a whole host of things for their revitalizing, I can't talk today, revitalizing program, a couple of business mixers, seminars, events, and of course their upcoming holiday party, which I will be at. But with that, if anybody has any questions or issues with the county, feel free to reach out to me if you live in the La Presa area. And I think my colleague Jamila and Supervisor Fletcher's office is on as well. So if you have any issues in District 4, feel free to reach out to her. We both work really well together. So Spring Valley is being represented very well, we think. Of course, I'm biased and I work for you all, so I can say that. But if anybody needs anything, I will put my information in the chat. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Okay, Victoria, do we have anyone else?
No, I see Sebastian and Ryan still have their hands raised, but I think that they will not be speaking anymore.
Okay, good enough. Thank you. All right, let's move on to item D, informational items. Number one is Sweetwater Authority. It's an introduction to the Sweetwater Authority and the reservoir with our group's interest being in recreational opportunities in and around the reservoir, both current and potential. Presentation will be made by Director of Water Quality, Justin Brazil, and the Director of Engineering and Distribution, Eric Del Bosque. Eric, is that the correct pronunciation of your name?
You got it right. Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna go. Yeah. Do you have anything to share on the screen? Because I can go ahead and stop sharing mine.
Yes, Tim. I have a presentation I'll share for us.
All right, Justin, go right ahead. Sorry, I think I've made you co-host already.
All right, here we go. All right, can everybody see this? Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Yep.
Okay, so as Tim mentioned, I'm Justin Brazil. I'm the Director of Water Quality here at Sweetwater Authority. I've been here for just over 16 years, and the Director of Water Quality, I'm responsible for the operation of the treatment plants, our pump and tank systems, and the distribution system, habitat management program, and also our certified water quality laboratory. And I'll hand it over to Eric real quick for an introduction.
Thanks, Justin. So my name is Eric Del Bosque. I'm Director of Engineering and Operations for Sweetwater Authority. Been with Sweetwater Authority for coming up on 5 years this December. And as director of this department, basically I'm responsible for directing the day-to-day, engineering design and also of infrastructure, maintenance of infrastructure, including inspections of tanks, infrastructure, also the development services to make sure we approve development plans, such as, for example, Chula Vista Bayfront redevelopment, or any development that any resident might have in their properties. At the same time, responsible for directing the overview of the staff who installs water pipelines and does repairs to water main leaks.
You tripping.
Sorry, somebody was speaking, sorry. And also to maintenance of the fire hydrants, valves, and the entire system, basically.
Great, thanks, Eric. So I'm gonna start the presentation. We're just gonna give a brief overview of Sweetwater Authority, who we serve, what we do, and then I'll hand it off to Eric, and we'll talk about some of the recreational activities that we offer at our reservoirs or reservoir. So Sweetwater Authority, we've been in service or providing safe, reliable water since 1977. We have a pretty large service area. We serve about 200,000 customers, and that's the western and central portions of Chula Vista, the unincorporated area of Bonita, and also the city of National City. About 33,000 service connections in total there. And we own and operate 2 dams, 2 reservoirs, which are, of course, the Loveland and Sweetwater Reservoir, 20 water storage tanks to deliver water to our customers out in the system, and then 17 pump stations that move water up into those tank zones to provide customers that live up more on the top of hills with water. We have a multitude of water resources. We have surface water, and I'll talk more in detail about these on further slides, but we have surface water and groundwater that we desalinate out, fresh groundwater, and imported water supplies where we're connected to the San Diego County Water Authority. And then, of course, the supply for the water in our reservoirs is also a 230 square mile watershed, which is also very important for us to protect, to ensure a healthy water supply for the authority and its customers. And so, surface water sources and protection of those sources. So 2 reservoirs, as I mentioned. So Sweetwater Reservoir, of course, located here in Spring Valley. And then we have the Loveland Reservoir located up in the Alpine area, which the 2 reservoirs are actually connected, as you may know, via the Sweetwater River. And we're continually monitoring activity and development within our watershed and around our reservoir, because we're very interested in what's going on, because, we have a vested interest in protecting the water quality in the reservoir. We have a team of watershed caretakers, which actually Eric oversees, but they play a very important role in not only operating our recreational programs, but also ensuring the security of our facilities, maintaining access points and roads and brush clearing, et cetera, around the reservoir properties. We of course monitor water quality in these reservoirs to keep track of, make sure it's good water quality, and keep track of making sure it's meeting all the state and federal drinking water regulations. And then we also have what's called an urban runoff diversion system. I'll show you that on the next slide. And we have a comprehensive habitat management program that I'll talk a little bit more about on another slide. So our urban runoff diversion system, this is actually a pretty unique system for a surface water reservoir. And if you've ever, many times you've probably driven down Hamishall Boulevard, you may have noticed some ponds just to the north of the reservoir. And those ponds are actually part of the urban runoff diversion system. And so the purpose of those ponds is to divert water into the ponds that we don't want going into the reservoir. So if there was a chemical spill or some kind of a contaminating activity that was going on, we don't want that water to go into the reservoir. We can catch it in the ponds, or just first flush event. So, after a long dry summer, a lot of debris and things you don't want in the reservoir build up in the streets. And so we capture that water in the pond so it doesn't enter the reservoir. Yes, I see a question.
This is Laura. Are you going to take questions at the end, or do you want us to just interrupt you?
Either way, go ahead. We will take questions at the end, but you can go ahead and ask a question.
No, I can wait till the end. That's no problem. I'll wait.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
but Laura, I prefer you do that. Thanks.
Okay, so that's our urban runoff diversion system, very important to protecting water quality in Sweetwater Reservoir. And then we also have a habitat program that we employ to maintain natural flora and fauna around our reservoir. And so just one example there, we're showing a natural species, coastal sage scrub, but we really do our best to protect the natural environment around here and try to maintain natural plants versus invasive plants. A healthy watershed, this is really conducive, I should say, to a healthy watershed, which is also, there's a really strong nexus there between water quality in your reservoir and a healthy watershed, because these plants in this natural environment also act as natural filters to protecting water quality and keeping things like erosion and runoff, erosion and sediment, things like that from accumulating in the reservoir that would make degrade water quality and make treatment more difficult. And so on just adjacent to Sweetwater Reservoir, I should say, we have the Purdue Water Treatment Plant. So this is our terminal reservoir where we withdraw water and then we treat it for distribution to the public. And the primary source for the Purdue Water Treatment Plant is Sweetwater Reservoir and Loveland reservoirs. But when we don't have local water available, because as you may see, the reservoir may not always be full, we do have imported water connections to the San Diego County Water Authority. And so they purchase water from Northern California and the Colorado River system, and then they deliver it to a multitude of member agencies in the region. And so the Purdue Water Treatment Plant, it can process up to 30 million gallons of water per day. It's a multi-step water treatment process, but really the primary objectives are removing total suspended solids from the water, removing color, removing odor, and then inactivating any viruses or bacteria from the water before it's delivered to the authority's customers. And then the authorities also, in addition to being fortunate in having local surface water supplies, we're also very fortunate. And we also have groundwater supplies in National City and Chula Vista. And so National City, we have what's called our National City Wells, and it's a 2 million gallon per day fresh groundwater source. It's actually one of our most affordable water sources. It's fresh groundwater, and we simply fluoridate it and disinfect it for drinking water purposes. And then we have the Richard A. Reynolds groundwater desalination facility in Chula Vista. That's located on 2nd Avenue, adjacent to the Sweetwater River. And so it's withdrawing brackish groundwater, which is salty, but less salty than seawater. It's withdrawing it from what's called the San Diego Formation, which is a big underground aquifer. And we're using reverse osmosis technology to reduce the salt content in it for potable water purposes. And so again, another very, very valuable local water resource for the authority. And then, of course, all this water that we produce and the source waters that we monitor, we need to do that somehow. And so we do have our own state certified water quality laboratory, and that's located on the property or in the operations building of the Purdue Water Treatment Plant here in Spring Valley. And so we check our source water, our treated water leaving the treatment plants, and also the water out in the distribution system prior to being delivered to the customer. And we're looking for bacteriological constituents, inorganic, organic, and radiological, all in all performing about 15,000 tests annually in the water quality lab. And at this point, I'll go ahead and hand it off to Eric.
Thanks, Justin. So speaking now about the recreation opportunities around Sweetwater Reservoir specifically, because that's the one that's, adjacent to your community. So we have a, network of hiking trails, but, besides hiking, there's also some, biking and horseback riding allowed. And this, I guess, hiking trails or network of trails are operated through an easement, granted by Sweetwater Authority to County of San Diego. There's a trailhead that starts at basically what's called the Sweetwater Summit Regional Park, which is, I'll kind of point where it is on the next slide, but it's basically located towards the south side of Sweetwater Reservoir in the kind of community of Bonita and Sunnyside. That's a county park, not our park, but it's adjacent to our property. And that's where the kind of network of trails initiates, basically.
You want me to go to the slide, Eric? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. So basically, with this slide, it kind of presents the network of, Justin, if you don't mind, maybe just kind of hovering the cursor towards the county park, just so anybody has an idea. That's the golf course, a little bit, there we go, that one. So that's the county park. It's called the Sweetwater Summit Regional Park. And a lot of trails initiate from there. So at the moment, there's several trails. The ones you see there at the bottom of the south side, like the orange one, the light purple, and those are existing trails that kind of cover on the previous slide. But in addition to that, there's also several trails proposed on the north side of the reservoir, and that will basically at the end of the day will create like a network of a loop trail. So that way, people can hike around the entire reservoir. The ones that are proposed are the ones that have the numbers designation. So numbers 1 through 10, everything on the north side. Those are network of trails that have been proposed by County of San Diego, and the Sweetwater Authority Governing Board is in support of this trail to create expanded recreation opportunities to the surrounding communities. At the moment, those trails are still proposed, and anytime you have trails in the vicinity of a body of water that's designated to be a water supply source. There's certain criteria that has to be met before those trails can be established. And that's kind of where we are at the moment, where the State Water Resources Control Board Division of Drinking Water that grants us our drinking water permit has certain criteria that has to be met because of the proximity to the reservoir. So basically, the county of San Diego has to prepare a report to address how the proposed recreation with these trails is going to impact the water quality in the reservoir, and that's kind of where we are at the moment with the entire process. Next slide, Justin. Sorry. Besides the hiking, biking, and horseback riding opportunities, we also have a fishing program. So this is a fishing program, that's to protect public health and benefit the community. And basically, we don't have fishing around the entire shoreline of the reservoir, but we have fishing allowed on a 2.5-mile stretch on the south side of Sweetwater Reservoir. And there's a parking facility where customers can go out there and park. And that has been expanded, whereas before it used to operate from, I think it was Saturday to Monday, but now it's expanded to be Friday to Monday, including seasonal hours.
Friday to Monday, not Monday to Friday.
It's Friday to Monday. It's the weekend program, so it's from Friday to Monday, not from Monday to Friday. So the how it's labeled there is correct. It's Friday to Monday, not the other way around. There are daily fees. It's $5 per adult, $3 per child, and $3 for cars that are non-fishing visitors that just want to park there and maybe do some hiking or biking around the trails. We do require that any people are going to fish that are 16 years or older to have a California state fishing license. And there's a kiosk there there's nobody that we have that actually collects the fees, but there's a kiosk there where the payment can be made. And I believe, Justin, that concludes the presentation, right? I believe the next slide is just for questions. So I know we kind of ran through that pretty quickly, but we want to be mindful of your busy agenda. So at this moment, we'll open it up for questions. I think
Victoria, do we have anybody from the group first?
I don't see any.
Laura,
Oh,
looks like
actually-
Laura's had her hand up from the early in the discussion. Go ahead, Laura.
No, I put it down and I just put it back up when the question word came
Go
up.
go for it.
Okay. The trail system has gone around Bonita for a long time, but Supervisor Jacob for over 10 years has tried to get us the Sweetwater Loop Trail that goes through the old Highway 54 and up and around the back of the lake. And I kind of think it's disingenuous to say we have this. Sweetwater Authority doesn't have it. We've had to fight tooth and nail for it, and we still don't have it yet. When are the people of Spring Valley going to receive the same advantages that the people of Bonita do? And we don't even have any kind of fishing ability either when Bonita does. So I'd like to know when you kind of equal that out, because you have this huge lake right at our doorstep. You don't give us any of the water, and yet, you can give a lot of trails to people on the south side of the lake. Could you please answer why that is?
Sure, Justin, I can handle this question. So as I mentioned, it's a different thing to have network of trails around a lake that's not designated to be a source of water supply. In this case, it is a source of water supply. So there are certain criteria not necessarily established by us, but the State Water Resources Control Board Division of Drinking Water that provide us with our.
What did Bonita meet that we don't meet? What requirements did Bonita meet that we did not meet or do not meet at this
If
time?
you're talking about the network of trails around the Roar Park, I mean, that's not a body of water. There's no water, there's no lake. It's a different situation.
There's no lake there?
No.
Around Roar Park, I believe those are trails you're referencing for Bonita, right? They're ones around Roar Park.
Well, the little picture you showed it being very close to the lake.
The
There you go.
network of trails
Yeah, the
on the
pink.
south side don't actually come that close to the. I believe I do not know when those were established, but again, the ones that are proposed are the ones on the north side. Now, the community of Spring Valley does have access to those network trails on the south side, even though the
You have the
network trails
ability to
needs
drive
be
around.
Bonita.
For people who have the ability to drive around there.
Right. So like I mentioned, there's certain criteria established by the State Water Resources Control Board that it's out of our control, that they provide our drinking water permit. And in order for those trails on the north side to come to fruition, the county needs to address how they're going to address the impacts to water quality, because it is a source of drinking water supply. So that's where the county is right now in the process. I believe they're going through the assessment of that process, but it's basically up to the county to provide that information so the process can move forward. Sweetwater Authority, our board has passed a resolution before in support of this trail, but it's up to the county to provide the information in order to make this happen.
Well, that's not been my experience for the last 10 years, because I've been involved with this attempt to try to get the same kind of amenities for Spring Valley as go to Bonita and other areas of San Diego. But okay. When do you expect us to be able to do this? Just when the county
I
gets
do
around
not
to writing
have
a
a
letter?
timeline. Like I mentioned, it's on the county right now, with the county to provide that type of documentation on how, what are going to be the potential impacts to water quality, and if there are any impacts, how those are going to be mitigated. So I do not know what the county's timeline on that is at the moment.
Where the blue line meets the pink line, does that go up and loop around to the steel bridge? Is that the loop?
So
See, it
yeah,
kinda
that
looks
would be
like-
basically the kind of pink line and the orange line. Those are on the south side, those are the existing trails.
Mhm.
Anything on the north, the ones that have the numbers designation from 1 to 10, those are the proposed trails. So the intent would be to connect them all to provide a loop.
Okay, so that's, the loop really just kind of goes around the reservoir then? It doesn't go up to the steel bridge?
I think
I
that's,
thought that was-
I believe that would be a footbridge, correct, Eric?
Yeah, I don't have a clear picture from this.
It's on
image of
Highway
when this
95,
bridge is
94 going south. When 94.
Right, that's not that far east, right?
No, that's that. This is that. I think that's what you're talking about. It's further east, further upstream.
Yeah.
There
But
are,
you're-
hi-
That's
there
out of
are,
Sweetwater's district then?
there are hiking trails that go all the way to the steel bridge from
Yes,
that
but not
point.
from this.
Right.
Yes,
Well, we're
yes.
just showing here what's within our property
Okay,
and what's basically adjacent to our property. There's definitely if that pink trail does extend further east. I do not know how far back it does, but basically we're kind of just showing here to the limits of our property.
all right,
It
great.
does extend further east.
Okay. All right, that's all my questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, Victoria, I think Chris Pierce had his hand up next.
Hi, thank you for coming tonight and presenting to us. I really appreciate it. And I had a question. I see on the 2023 to 2028 San Diego County CIP plan that they have money set aside to work on segment 10. So it looks like, progress is being made, and I appreciate you guys working with the county to try to, make this come to fruition. Yeah, thank you. I think the biggest missing part is number 7, segment 7 right now. When you're going down, we do have like patchy trails through there that we can pretty much make it almost 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, 5, 6, and then you hit the sidewalk on 8, and then B9. Those are kind of all established. I've been able to navigate those, but at the end of 6, you kind of I think it's San Diego Street. You just run into like a dead end of someone's backyard and your guys' fence. And I just hope that you guys can come to an agreement with the county to help complete that segment 7 loop sooner than later.
Yeah, like Eric mentioned, our board did adopt a resolution to support the loop trail and be collaborative with the county on this. So, and staff is working with them to make progress.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And I hope the county, comes to the table too, and you guys both work together to resolve this quickly. Another
This resolution was passed back in 2019, I believe. Sweetwater Authority Board supporting this trail. So
we talked to the county and they say they're waiting on you. It's kind of like a blaming game. So I just hope you all come together and help the community get it done. And I appreciate what you guys like putting in the effort to do this. One of my questions is just a little further up, I guess where the number 10 is, there's like a pipeline that crosses the river that is kind of barbed wired off. Is there a particular reason that can't be a crossing bridge?
So that's actually not Sweetwater Authorities. That's part of Otay Water Districts. It's a recycled water transmission line that goes down to the south from their I believe from their Chapman plant in Spring Valley.
Okay, so we'd have to take that up with them. All right, that's all I had. Thanks for coming tonight. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Victoria, I think we had Jim Cousteau next. Is that correct?
Yes. And then Malcolm, I see that your hand's raised. I just want to acknowledge all the board members first, and then we'll do the public after.
Yeah, that's fine.
Go ahead, Jim.
Hi, this is Jim Cousteau. Again, gentlemen, thank you for attending our meeting tonight. I do appreciate that. I'm thrilled that we potentially have the prospect of having some cooperative agreements between the county and Sweetwater Authority to open up this tremendous resource to the citizens of Spring Valley. The challenge that we have right now with the existing trail down around the regional park, and I've stayed down there and camped down there, but if somebody's particularly somebody of low income, maybe doesn't have transportation, really has no easy way or no good way to get to that trail at the south end. It's really a very long trek. You have to go up to Paradise Road, go down through Bonita, past the county animal shelter, past Bonita Golf Course, cross the Sweetwater River, then proceed back east several miles, crossing under the 125 bridge before you can get up to the location of this trail and parking that's available on the south side of the reservoir. Completely impractical for the majority of residents, and particularly I'm speaking for our less fortunate residents that maybe don't have easy transportation and desperately would like to access recreational activities around this lake. So I think it's imperative that we find a way to establish an access point with parking somewhere along the north side of the lake. I don't know where that would be. There's a big chunk of land, 9A. If you look at that kind of the area that's within the 9A, 9B, and 10 proposed trails, that land is all owned by some LLC, and potentially the county could look into acquiring that land. Some of it is flat enough that you could have parking and some sort of activity, county park-like activities, and the rest of it could be designated as permanent open space, which I'm sure Sweetwater Authority would certainly like to see there, rather than a whole bunch of condos and homes. So I really hope that our county can find a way to work with the Sweetwater Authority to provide access from the north side of the lake so that our citizens in Spring Valley, particularly those that don't have the wherewithal to jump in a car and just make that trek down around, because it's, I don't know, it's 6-7 miles probably to do that loop. I haven't checked the mileage, but it's easily that far, maybe farther. And so I would certainly hope you guys do that. all the city lakes are very accessible. Even allowing water contact sports, water skiing in El Cap, San Vicente, Lake Murray, they allow boats and fishing. We can go right down the list, Miramar Lake. Most of the lakes in the county have much more accessibility. Sweetwater Reservoir has been a jewel in our backyard that's been basically, might as well be in another country, because we haven't been able to get the kind of recreational potential that it could have. So I'm not suggesting that the Sweetwater Authority pay for all these improvements and pay for having maybe boats and fishing from a boat and more activities on this lake. I think that should be something the county should step up for, to provide these kind of activities. I don't believe your ratepayers should have to absorb that cost, but it would sure seem to me that there shouldn't be any health reasons related to water quality that we shouldn't be able to access this lake in a much greater way than has been the case for virtually a very long time. And I'll be happy to take any feedback you might have on that. Thank you.
Sure. So Jim, I'll say I appreciate the comments and understand where you're coming from with the community, and I'm definitely taking notes, and I'm sure Eric is as well. And some of these points, when we meet with the county, we can express some of these concerns and wants that we heard from the planning group.
Okay, thank you. And we'll of course keep the pressure on our supervisor representatives, District 1 or District 4, that both have proximity to this lake.
And Jim, I believe you mentioned about, the area around segments 9A, 9B, and 10. I believe the county is in the process of trying to acquire those properties for the purpose of this network of trails. So I'm not exactly sure where that process is at the moment, but as my understanding, they're trying to acquire those properties.
That'd be great, because we sort of asked that. That seemed like about 2 years ago, year and a half ago, we sort of posed that to the county as a potential excellent additional resource to add to the Parks and Trails network for our county park system. So that would be great news. Ryan, if you're still on the phone and you know anything about that, we'd love to hear anything you might know, or anything you can dig up for us to help us with any feedback on acquiring that property.
Right. I just unmuted. Yeah, Jamila and I can follow up with county staff and see and get a brief on where they are with that, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think 9A and 9, like that section of the reservoir might actually be in District 4.
Yeah, I think it is. It's right at the break point there, right between 1 and 4.
Right. But yeah, Jamila, let's connect with county staff and get a brief on this.
And also to kind of get into this whole concept of developing a parking area, place where folks can actually enter into the trail system, and also maybe the fishing potential on the north side, as well as just that small area on the south.
There is right here, if you can see my cursor, this is a proposed staging area for the trail. I can't recall if it was going to include parking, but I can ask when we meet again.
Interesting.
Yeah, it'd be definitely good to have a big enough area, because I've entered into the south area on that dirt road that goes in. There's a pretty substantial area where you can park there to do the shoreline fishing and access the trails. And it'd be good to have something that could handle, 20 to 50 cars. I'm thinking, on a big weekend, it could be an excellent resource. And it could be that if the county can acquire that land at the east end of the lake that we were just talking about, around the 9A, 9B area, that could be because there's already an established entrance there that's that in a gate and a roadway that comes in over there that could potentially be an access point for a park area?
That area around 9A and 9B has, it's a steep hillside, has some erosion issues with stormwater coming from the point development, which is basically up there. You can kind of see that, just on the side of Trail 9A. And those are stormwater issues that have been occurring for decades, that have been occurring or causing erosion issues on the hillside. So there's currently, I think, a design in progress to address those stormwater quality concerns. Not water quality, sorry, more like stormwater issues that provide erosion, lead to erosion. So that's that's being mitigated or soon to be mitigated, and I think that's what probably needs to happen first before the county would probably consider buying the property, I would imagine.
So it sounds like the point got away with something and they didn't do correct channeling of stormwater in a way that wouldn't create challenges and erosion, it sounds like.
Yeah, the erosion from that hillside has led to a lot of water quality issues in our reservoir for decades. So that's something that's kind of being addressed at the moment. We have seen a design for the stormwater facilities, and we're in very strong support of those improvements happening. And I think that will eventually potentially lead to maybe the county, acquiring the property. But again, I'm not really sure where that stands right now in the process with the proper acquisition.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jim. Does anyone else from the board want to speak? Okay, Malcolm?
Well, going back in my time machine here, I know that a lot of the improvements that were called for in the point project as it was originally presented never got done because of the economy. Things just fell apart. So a lot of those improvements that were supposed to take place, they just never got done. But more importantly, my question is, I know that Trail 2, 3, and 4 are currently existing. 5 is more or less there, and 6 is in part of the old State Route 54 right-of-way, and that would be right along where this is showing, right along Lakeview Avenue and where Quarry Road terminates into that right-of-way. So that's kind of an interesting location for that to be there. But I'm curious as to why, segments 2, 3, 4, and really 1 are shown as, you indicated that were proposed, or are you talking about not being included in the loop system formally? Because I know segment 4 is a historic railroad trail. So I'm a little perplexed about that.
It may just be that this map's a little out of date.
I think potentially part of Trail 4, kind of between the numbers 2 and 3 you see there.
Yeah.
That's outside of our property, might be existing potentially, but the majority of
it's on my property. I'm your neighbor.
The majority of Trail 4 down below does not exist because that's within our property. So I can tell you for sure there's no existing trail within downstream of the dam that's within our property.
Really?
Part of trail, I think there's a trail that exists that it's beyond outside of the property. And I think what you're seeing there is probably part of that trail number or 2. And if you can see between the blue and the purple, there's a little bit of a green designation right there. That's existing, I believe. So that green, that area right there, that's exists. But the purple, which is downstream of the dam within the property, does not exist. There's a segment I think outside the property. So.
I appreciate that you believe that trail doesn't exist, but
and it may be that it's maybe not labeled properly here, but I do see, Malcolm, what you're referring to. I've seen that trail. I know there's
you had a fire right here at this road right here, right about where the number 4 is, that burned up the hill.
If you can see 4, and I'm not sure, Justin, we're able to zoom in a bit more or not, but
I don't think I can on this.
Yeah,
if you can see part of the trail number 4, that comes pretty close to the base of the dam. I can guarantee you that that part of the trail does not exist. The part of the trail that you're referring to, I've seen it, and I know that exists, but that's I think what's leading up to the hillside.
okay, well, I can tell you that
And that might be part
I've
of trail
lived-
4 right there, but not the entirety of the trail there as it's labeled here. Especially the area that's kind of downstream of the dam, below the hillside. That part is not part of the trail right now.
well, I can tell you that I'm where the Spring Canyon HOA is. I'm the Malcolm you've been getting all the emails from in the last few days. I've been here 35 years. And while before Quarry Trail became Quarry Trail was Quarry Road, and this is designated on our plans, a designated equestrian and pedestrian and bicycling trail that ran through all our property across. There's always an issue here, but all the way through, and you can walk on this trail.
I can say
Capture
there
it
is
here,
a trail there.
you
I
go
can,
all the way.
I can guarantee there's a trail there, but I think maybe potentially some of this information on trail 4 might be a little bit outdated, how it's presented here. And how it's shown on this map, part of that is shown at the base of the dam. And what I can say, what I'm trying to say that there is
Well,
no
it
trail
doesn't,
at the base of
there
the dam.
isn't,
There
yeah,
is
there isn't a
on the
trail that loops
hillside
back
outside
to the,
property.
I think it doesn't, there is no trail that goes back to the base of the dam. It zigzags down the hill. And maybe get, come in and we can walk down to that area.
You know, Michael, I think it's just mislabeled potentially on this map, because the way it's shown here, part of that is shown within the property of Sweetwater Authority. And I can guarantee you there is no trail within that portion of that property. There is a trail though on the hillside, like you described, which is kind of where you see a number 4. There is a trail through there. I believe. But I think maybe
it's a historic railroad.
This map, the way it's
Yeah,
shown.
Mr. Chair, I was wondering if we could take like some sort of action on this, maybe get like an RFI request for information or do a follow-up on this, just to kind of keep want to make sure the issue gets resolved, but I'm not quite sure what the issue is and what the action is. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I can work back with Eric and Justin to make sure we got updated material. And also too, I'm wondering, like so many trails through so many canyons and property in San Diego County, how many of them are trails that were just created over time as game trails or people getting from here to there that are not necessarily, they look legitimate, but they're not necessarily. So maybe in talking with Eric and Justin, we can clear that up as far as what is a legitimate trail as recognized by the authority in the county. Okay.
Well, I can tell you that county park rangers use that trail all the time and run their vehicles up and down it. So if it doesn't exist, those vehicles it's a mystery to me. But I can tell you they do that.
Better send to the county because we don't own those trails, so they would have that information.
Yeah, and I'll talk with county parks about that as well. Thank you. All right. Let's see, Victoria, I think we have one more person.
Angelica, I see your hands raised.
Yes, thank you. I was wondering, you guys had mentioned about the safety of the water and why these trails have not been open yet. Have there been talk about what will be done to prevent that? Any kind of mishandling of the water or
Sure.
tampering?
So there's a lot of things that were, we have some experience with this as well, working with the regulators, because we had to go through a similar process when we established the fishing program on the south side of the reservoir. So there's a lot of things that we're looking into doing, security, definitely, right? You don't want unauthorized access to the reservoir. We also want the trail ideally in such a way that any runoff, it minimizes erosion into the reservoir, and ideally any runoff would go into the urban runoff diversion system. We know from what we had to do with the fishing program, the Division of Drinking Water, that's the regulatory agency we work with. They're going to want to plan for how many restroom facilities we have, how far apart they're spaced, how often they're cleaned, how often the trails patrolled. They want to make sure that the trail setbacks the appropriate distance from the high water mark in the reservoir to reduce any contamination from trail activities. They would also probably ask us to do an additional microbiological monitoring in the reservoir to ensure that there's not any impact or demonstrate that there's not impacts to water quality. And so those are just a few of the things that we would be looking at and discussing, as far as getting a permit to do this and ensure the protection of water quality.
Now, excuse my ignorance, but how does the other lakes, like say Santee Lakes and all the other lakes that allow recreation on the lake, are those lakes tied into any running water or drinking water?
All tied in.
Not sure about Santee Lakes, but there are published guidance documents that you do have to follow when you develop trails and recreational activities around a reservoir.
So how are they allowing, because I'm not just talking about like runoff and stuff. I'm talking about like if someone is really trying to poison the community and throwing something in the water, how are they allowing recreational activity on the lake? And those are not main concerns.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's definitely, those things are always definitely a possibility, and that's where, security and regular patrolling of the reservoir and monitoring by their county staff or authority staff is a really important aspect to having the trail system near the reservoir.
But how is security going to stop everyone?
We haven't got down to that level yet. We know that needs to be a component of it, but we haven't necessarily got to the level where we've developed what that's going to look like at this point.
But why reinvent the wheel? How is the other lakes handling that?
Sure.
Why are we not taking note from them in regards to getting what they're doing done so we can move faster and getting our stuff done?
Sure. And those are definitely good references for us to look at as we move through the process. I agree.
Okay.
I'm kind of just speculating here, but it could be that a lot of those trails that maybe you've seen in other lakes could have been established before those type of guidelines were developed.
Okay.
So it might be like grandfathered in already because they were already there. But now that this one's a new trail is being proposed, they had to abide by whatever guidelines are established when you have a trail in proximity to a drinking water source.
Okay, and then you said the fishing fees are basically on an honor basis because there's no one there to collect.
There's a kiosk basically where I think you can just drop the money in an envelope. And I think at the end of the day, we have staff that opens that up and collects the payments, but there's not like we have somebody at a booth that's collecting the payment as people come in.
Okay, so it's an honor basis basically. Okay.
Mhm.
That's all I had. Thank you very much.
Malcolm, I see your hand is still raised. Did you still have another question?
I just had a follow-up point to make to address for Eric and Justin. As I recall, when the Point project was coming through, one of the arguments that the State Water Quality Resources Board had is that Sweetwater Reservoir was considered in their category of a sole source water supply, so it had a different level of protection that was required, which then resulted in the requirement that Sweetwater Authority and the Point enter into an agreement on how to deal with the runoff. And that is the significant difference between the city of San Diego water supply. Santee Lakes, by the way, is a reclamation. Those are reclamation ponds. They're not necessarily sole source water, but they're reclamation ponds. They're not necessarily, they're treatment ponds. To be blunt with you, that's what they are. And but that was the discussion that took place around Sweetwater Authority when the Point was being considered. So hopefully that'll give you some background history.
Thank you, Malcolm. Victoria, do we have anybody else?
I don't see any other hands. Would the two presenters be able to share their contact information in case anyone from the public wasn't able to have their questions answered?
Sure. Would you just like us to add it to the chat?
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
thank you very
just
much,
one
both
more
of
thing
you.
regarding Trail 4. Yeah, again, I've seen that, people hiking and biking there. I think it's just that the way that's presented in the map, it looks on the map like it's coming very close to the base of the dam. So the only point that I was trying to make is that within our property, there is no trails there. So there is a trail. I think it's maybe it's labeled on the map, or because it's so zoomed out that, it's not clear, but I've seen people around that area. So maybe what I present of Trail 4 not existing was wrong, but the point I was trying to make is there's no trail within our property.
Thank you, Eric. Both you gentlemen, thank you very much for your time this evening. It's nice talking to the Sweetwater Authority. And just tell the people in National City and Chula Vista that they can thank us for the water.
Thank you.
All right, guys, take care.
Writing my contact info on the chat.
Great, thank you very much. Informational item number 2, Department of Public Works. This is the Apple Street Sidewalk Improvement Project. Ryan Lau with the project manager with DPW is going to present the 50% level design. And Ryan, I think I have you set up as a co-host if you have any presentation materials.
I do. So let me see if I can get it onto the screen here. Screen 2. Share.
Very good. All right.
Okay. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Ryan Lau. I'm a project manager for the County of San Diego, Department of Public Works. Thank you for having me. And I'm here to present some good news. We have a very simple capital improvement project that's on its way to construction. It's called Apple Street Sidewalk Improvements. So this is going to be sidewalk on the south side of Apple Street between Grand Avenue and Ramona Avenue. And you can see kind of in the aerial view here that, Hammershock Road has sidewalk already. And then as you go on to Apple, then it ends. And in the street view here, you can see there is a place to walk, but it's very narrow and it's not ADA compliant. So the project is 550 linear feet of concrete curb, gutter, and sidewalk. And it does start at the end of the existing sidewalk here. And then it crosses over, this is Ramona Street here, crosses to the other side of Ramona. And that includes 2 alleyways, 1 driveway, and 4 ADA compliant curb ramps. And I just wanted to spend a little bit of time on the history of the project. I understand the CPG priority list has been updated. It was updated last year, but on the old list, you had Apple Street on either side of Grand Avenue, east of the intersection, and then going down toward Galapagos Street and Maya, that intersection down there. And so I used to be the liaison for the county with Spring Valley CPG, and I used to attend the Spring Valley revitalization meetings. And so I was very aware of all the sidewalk priorities you had, and it was always number 1 on the infrastructure list. And so I did apply for grants to try to win some money to do these sidewalks, and Apple Street was one that kind of rose to the top. It was it checked a lot of the boxes for what typically wins grants. It's an underserved community area, and then it is a direct access to essential services and schools. So I applied, and just for that section, just between Grand Avenue and Ramona Avenue, typically with the grants, we see that the smaller sections have a better chance of being awarded. And we're happy to do incremental improvements. And so unfortunately it didn't win, but going all the way back to the 2020 Spring Valley revitalization meeting, after the meeting, I got a call from our traffic section, and they were on the meeting as well. And they said, hey, we have some funding available, or it will be available in 2021. And, you mentioned that, you're not able to fund these sidewalk projects. So do you have any that you'd like to propose? And I said, great, I have Apple Street all ready for you. So we got to fund it. And so that was great. And it has taken us a while to get some people to do the work, but we're moving it forward now. And I just wanted to, fully acknowledge that I only recently found out that your priority list had been updated in September of 2021, and that your specific priority is now the Apple Street and La Presa Avenue. So, you know, we want to get you what you want, but this project is kind of moving along, and we've done some work on it. So we think it's best to just keep continuing on. And then, as you can see on the screen, that, you know, the next section, you know, we'll keep applying for grants and keep looking for opportunities, but the next section would be, you know, Ramona to La Presa Avenue in the very least, and then eventually we want to keep it going to Galapagos Street if that's still something that the CPG. So the project status, we just completed the 50% design, and then we're moving toward the 100% design, and I'd be happy to share the plans if you're interested in sidewalks. There's no right-of-way required or no easements required. It's all going to take place in the county right-of-way, and it will be a notice of exemption for the environmental document. So the project cost is about $300,000, and the schedule, we're looking to complete design, you know, maybe at the end of the year or early 2023, and then we'll go to the board for approval and bid and award the project in the spring, and hopefully we'll be able to start construction next summer, and then complete construction by the fall. And then this is the advisory board statement. So eventually I would like a vote from the CPG, and I think that the way that this was on the agenda, we can't take a vote tonight. So no worries, we can come back at the 100% level or however you guys want to do it. So we can just skip that. But anyway, that's the long and short of it. So does anybody have any questions?
Can you go back to the first slide where it has the improvement area, please? Thanks.
This, do you want to see this one?
Yes, that one. Thank you.
Laura Lowe's, I see your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. Do you think that at some time in the future we'd be able to go all the way up to the top of the hill, like to Maya Street at some time?
Yeah,
I'm sure it's a long ways away, but
yeah, I think so. You know, Apple Street in general, like I said, does meet a lot of the criteria for winning grants. There's not funding available now, but this is definitely a priority. And if the CPG continues to keep it a priority, then we can keep trying to get it funded. And, you know, I don't know if you've met Renee Vidalis, but he's the new project manager for CIP, who's going to be the liaison for Spring Valley. So I can, you know, work with him, and you can continue to work with him as well. But yeah, I think it's definitely a possibility.
great. This is exciting. Yeah, at Apple Street, I believe that's where it, Apple and La Presa, I think, is where they had further, I guess it would be south. There are two streets that come together, and then they have the stop sign there at Apple. And so it's been kind of a problem for a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see it coming in here.
Those two.
And on,
Yeah, they had quite a
above.
few problems there, and they did put in, I thought, a stop sign several years ago. We met out there with Zubir, and I don't know what the status of that is now. So it's really great to be having this happen. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Tim?
Yeah, Ryan, a couple of questions. One is, what's the parking situation along that stretch of the street? Is there no parking, or what's the circumstance?
I believe there's no parking there. I think it's too narrow to have parking.
Good, keep it that way. Second question is, even though it was done in the right of way, was there any community outreach as far as talking to the residents along there as to what is going to be happening?
So I sent out the 50% plans to everybody on the south side of Apple Street to about 500 feet south of the project. So all of these residents here that would kind of walk up toward Apple Street, they all got copies of the plans and just a very, you know, brief informational sheet about what the plan is and, you know, what the timing is.
Did they have an opportunity to react back or comment back?
Yeah, I gave them my contact number and information, and nobody's contacted me yet. So.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's, you know, the sidewalks are a huge thing for us. We thank you very much for doing this, getting the reaching out for the grant, and then working with the traffic advisory people. But I also want to make sure that the community realizes that sidewalks are a blessing, and If they didn't react back, then that's a good sign. Thank you.
Problem.
Chris Pierce.
Hey, Ryan, thanks again for coming and presenting this. And I really appreciate you applying for all those grants, trying to get these projects, make them happen here in Spring Valley and La Presta. Kudos to you. One question is, it does say at the end of that convenience store, it does say no stopping ends here. So it looks like you can technically park there, but is it possible to put bike lanes in the scope of that project on that side where the sidewalks are, and try to go down as far as you can to avoid parking?
I can definitely look at that. I don't think there may be enough space from there. I know we do have a significant amount of right of way there, so I can definitely look into it.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
I was gonna also ask about bike lanes. And then I was also wondering about a potential like different project. It's on like Kempton and Piedmont. If we could have a crosswalk that's compliant with ADA, and then on Kempton and St. George. They're both next to two Title I schools, our teen and rec center, and our library. I don't know if that would like heighten the chances of getting a grant to address that, but a lot of kids walk to school, and just a lot of people are, moving carts or strollers or wheelchairs and aren't able to. There's not even sidewalks, but also the crosswalks aren't ADA.
Yeah, I can partially answer that. This is Tim. I was up there today, as a matter of fact, at the library. So I realized what it's like there when school is letting out, which is exactly the time I was there. Ryan, Renee, I think the reason why we haven't gotten to our CIP list this year is because Renee's new to that responsibility. Is that true?
It is true, but also the CIP doesn't actually ask for new lists every year. I mean, the CPG is welcome to submit anytime they want to update it. I mean, you can update it as much as you want, but the actual going out and asking for the new list, that effort may not happen for a little while.
Okay, because we can do that. We can do a review of our CIP list. I'm used to seeing somebody request that we do it. So since it didn't happen, I now realize that I can go ahead and take a look at it and get it out to the group and see if there's any updates we want to do. Thank you.
Yeah, and then just so the Kempton and Piedmont, and then what was the other one? Kempton
and St. George.
Okay.
So there's sidewalks closest to the schools and the libraries, but on the other side of the street there's no sidewalk, and then the two crosswalks are not compliant with ADA.
And then, we can look into that, but also just kind of what Tim was saying, it would be really helpful if it's on the CPG priority list.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And then would you also be able to share the contact information for Renee?
Sure, I will put it in the chat when I stop sharing the screen.
Got you, thank you. Ed Woodruff?
Yes, I'm so pleased to see that this is going to actually happen. Having taught in that area for over 30 years and getting a chance to have this actually happen is just fantastic. Thank you so much for spending your time and getting those grants, because it's so sorely needed.
Good.
So thank you again.
No problem. Happy to help.
Chris, I see your hand is still raised.
Yeah, one thing, Ryan, did you have something to do with the Birch Street sidewalks recently?
So I applied for that grant and got that money, but a different project manager designed it, and I believe it's now constructed. So
it is.
I got the money, but I didn't actually participate in the design. So
okay, well, I just wanted to thank you again, and sorry, Victoria, for stealing the bike idea.
You're good.
Okay.
Does anyone else from the board have anything to say before I open it up to the public? Angelica?
I don't know if this is has been done already, but I know a long time ago, we were concerned about sidewalks and on Hammershaw Boulevard. And excuse me, I don't know the east from the west, from the south, from the north, but the going to La Presa Elementary, was that ever done? I know I've been kind of gone for the last 10 years, but now I'm back. But I haven't looked to see, now that we're talking about sidewalks, I know there was a lot of sidewalk missing on Hammershaw Boulevard. Was that ever done? Does anyone know?
Right there, I believe that through the Safe Routes to School program, they did get the crosswalks there at La Presa and
Yeah, they did.
and
Okay.
and Hammershaw.
Okay. Okay. That was my question. Thank you.
Yeah, Ed was responsible for a lot of that.
I know we fought for that a long time ago. So
Yeah, we sure did.
yeah.
Yeah, it looks like the north side is all paved, and then when the Arco AMPM was put in, that they finished the last sidewalk there.
Okay.
Thank you, Angelica. Is there anyone else from the public or the group?
I don't see any other hands.
Okay, well then, Ryan, we're going to thank you very much for your time. You're now the patron saint of sidewalks for Spring Valley. So, because, you know, if you ever look at our CIP list, which I'm sure you have, sidewalks come in there quite often. So thank you very much for doing that. Hey, the more the better. By the way, folks, I did the math real quick on my calculator. $545 a foot is what it costs to put in a sidewalk around here. So reaching out for grants, having bake sales, whatever you got to do to get money for the sidewalks, we encourage you to do it. And I will get a hold of Renee and talk to him a little bit about us independently updating our CIP list. Okay.
And
Okay.
Ryan, can you share your information also in the chat, if you don't mind?
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Thank you very much, Ryan. I'll go ahead and go back to our agenda now. Thanks again.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
All right, guys. This is an informational item, pretty much pre-intake interview, but we're not really going to be voting on it. This is PDS 2022 ZAP 22009, 9125 Lamar Street, battery storage facility. It's an introduction for discussion and group input. Presenter is Pierce. Proponent is Skylar Tennis, Director of Operations for EnerSmart Storage. And by the way, Tyler, do you need to have access, or Chris, I think I already set you up for your material. That'll probably be enough. I'm going to go ahead and stop the share, and I think I have you set up as a co-host.
All right.
I see
Good
that
one.
Angelica's hands raised. Is that from previously, or did you still have a comment? Okay.
All
Okay,
right.
Chris, thank you. Go ahead.
So yes, this is 9125 Lamar Street for the proposed battery storage facility. I'm going to go through a brief presentation, and then Skylar also has a presentation that we'll let him go through, and then throw some suggestions up there and answer some questions. So this is the old Pac Bell facility, I believe. There is an existing building on the property. It's still there. It's a corner lot adjacent to the SDG&E power on the west side power substation. They're looking to only improve little less than half of the entire APN. It's not going to be a lot split. They're leasing it for like a 20-year lease or so, and we'll plan to put battery storage solution here, surrounded by sound walls. It's zoned residential right now, I believe. Here's the project description. They're going to install 36 new battery storage containers, a transformer switch, underground conduit, site retaining walls, landscaping, and BMPs. The project will be constructed in one phase. The site will include grading, a good amount of grading to level the lot, and soil disturbance during the construction related activities. BMP treatment will be in place to treat the water prior to discharge off-site. The site will minimize the amount of impervious surfaces by incorporating landscape and gravel where feasible. The site will not disturb existing streams, wetlands, and maintain existing drainage. I guess you guys can pretty much read the rest of that. Here is another look at it. This is Lamar Street. This is Avenida de Lamar. Here are the battery packs, and then the other, I'll let Skylar get into that. There's going to be a retaining pond in the front for all the runoff water to be treated before it goes into the system. Here is the proposed landscaping plan. Most of the landscaping on this plan is proposed to be inside the sound walls, which are 14 feet and so on. So it may not be visible according to this plan. So we have some suggestions we'll address later on with that. Here's a view from Lamar looking at the property, looking south onto the, I guess, north part of the property. This is what is proposed to look like with the sound wall and a retaining wall along with vegetation and a fence. Right now, there is no plans to improve these existing driveways or ditches. Here's a look at the corner of Lamar and Avenida de Lamar. My apologies. Here is it with the rendering of the sound wall. And here is a rear of the property existing today and what it will look like. On the top of this sound wall, they're proposing to put a glass treatment, so the residents in these homes will be able to still have their view of Mount Helix. This is just an example of the property next door, what their sound retaining wall looks like. So that might be kind of similar what we'll be expecting to see when their wall goes up. I did provide this presentation to members of the group so they can go to there to see more photos. There's another one of the drainage ditch, and I'm gonna go over to Skylar now. I can just, do you want to present or do you want me to show your presentation here?
That's up to you. You can go ahead and show it, and I can just have you click through the slides. Most of my slides are the before and after photos, so you already covered that for me.
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for having me. My name is Skylar Tennis, Vice President of Operations for InterSmart Storage. Just brief history of us. We are located in Solana Beach. We specialize in utility scale energy storage, so front of the meter. With our management team, we've got a combined 50 years of experience in the project management, finance, and the power industry as a whole. Our entire portfolio is located in San Diego County. This being our second largest site, the Spring Valley site, from a capacity standpoint. And then we've got a total of 123 megawatts spread across San Diego County. All of our projects connect at the distribution level, which would be at SDG&E's transmission lines. But we participate in the KISO market. So everything is actually traded at the 69 kV level. So some things that these projects will do will increase the grid's capacity for renewable energy sources. Currently, a lot of the solar excess that we're producing in California does get shipped to other states if it's not able to be used here. This will allow us to be able to store that energy and use it when it's needed rather than shipping that off somewhere else. It does play a crucial role in assisting with California's goal to achieve 100% renewable by 2045. There will be no emissions with this project. We don't use any water, and it will have zero negative environmental or air quality impacts. We will help to regulate frequency on the grid, so helping to balance out that power and keep it clean. These projects do help to level or lower the cost of power. And in addition to being able to capture that solar power, these can also be discharged in lieu of firing up a gas-powered peaker plant. So obviously helping to reduce emissions, but also helping to level that cost of power. Clean air and increased public safety. Our project will help to increase public safety and reduce air pollution by allowing more renewable energy to be placed on the grid so that it can be stored and used at a time when it's needed.
Could you enlarge your page at all, sir?
Yeah, there we go.
Thank you.
No problem. Chris, you can go to the next slide, please. So I mentioned all of our projects are currently in San Diego County. This is just a list showing the size in megawatts and megawatt hours. Megawatts being the amount of power that we can produce at one time, megawatt hours being the amount of energy that we can actually store. You can see we're using EOS on one of our projects, but most of our projects are with BYD. Same with Spring Valley. It is a lithium iron phosphate technology, so I'm sure everybody's heard of lithium ion. This lithium iron phosphate is more stable than the lithium ion chemistry. So definitely an advancement there. Yeah, nothing really else on this slide, unless you have any questions on the other projects. So it just kind of shows some site photos and where we're placing these. Spring Valley projects is up there on the upper left. We also have one in Ramona. It's at the Croman substation there in the middle. That's ESS in Chula Vista, the one on the upper right. That one's actually currently in construction. You guys are welcome to go by that site whenever and take a look at what we're doing. We do have the pads poured and the equipment is starting to be placed now, so you get a good idea of what it's going to look like. And I can also show some photos or share some photos if you'd like to see those. Mesa Heights, one of our smallest sites, and then Imperial Beach. All of these are currently in permitting either with the county or the local city jurisdictions. You can go to the next slide, Chris, please. Same thing, just more of our sites. El Cajon is actually going in the back of a women's shelter. I'm going to put 3 megawatts on that one. Los Coches is a single 3 megawatt site. Alpine, we're doing 2, and then Murray, we're going to have 21 megawatts on that site. And as you can see off all these photos, they're all strategically located right next to the substations. Chris already showed you that, and you guys have already seen these showing the existing versus the proposed. This is what the batteries look like here on the left. So a lot of people have the misconception that these are just large storage containers. They do look a little bit better than that. And then on the right is the equipment that we use to convert the DC power to AC so that it can then be transformed to 12 kV and put on the distribution to serve SDG&E's customers. This is just a summary of our management team. James Beach and Mark Lamont are both the founders of the company, been doing the power generation field for a very long time. Then you've got, next slide is My Ugly Mug and Dr. Gary Doris, who works with co-founder of Ascend Analytics, that helps analyze where these systems are needed and where they make the most sense based on power demand and usage. And then the last slide is just of our office location and my contact information. That's my phone number if anybody would like to get a hold of me, and then the email addresses of the owners and myself.
Okay, I'm going to go over a few other things really quick, and then we'll open it up to the questions. I see people have their hands raised. Here we go here.
And if you would, Chris, if you can pull up the site plan, I did have some other topics that I just wanted to talk through.
Sure.
That weren't included in the presentation.
Is this one okay?
Yeah, that's fine. So the first question we get on these generally is fire. What are you going to do if there's a fire? What's the response? How do we get it handled? So we've been working very closely with the local fire department on all of these projects. This one specifically is going to have a manifold system at the front, and each one of these battery containers has an inlet for a fire hose. So rather than asking the fire personnel to go up to anything that would be on fire and connect a hose, we're putting a manifold system. It's right there in the lower left. Yeah, right there. That'll allow them to have a direct connection to each container. If there was ever a thermal event, they just hook up right there from a safe distance, flood the container, and there's no more fire. Sound mitigation is another big topic on these. These do have fans. They're just cooling fans, so nothing crazy. But I believe the levels are I want to say 65 decibels at 1 meter. When doing these sound studies and you put this many units together, the engineering that goes along with that amplifies when you have that many. So following county standards, we have ensured that we're going to mitigate the sound to below those levels at the property line. Just to kind of make everybody feel a little bit more comfortable, we do model these in sound in the sound studies as if all of them are operating at once. The way these are connected to the substation, that won't ever happen. So it is a very conservative study. You should not be able to hear these outside of that sound wall. It is an unmanned facility. There's nobody on site. These operate. We operate these remotely. We will have people going in maybe once a month or so to do things like change air filters, just do basic maintenance checks. But other than that, these are unmanned. There won't be anybody or any traffic created or traffic flow from this project. And then last but not least, lighting. You're not going to see a whole lot of it on here now. We've got kind of on the perimeter right now. Those will be bug lights. We haven't gotten specific on which one we're going to use yet. These layouts, because we are working with SDG&E and they have their say in how these sites are laid out. Well, I would say we're 90% there, but this will be revised and tweaked over the next year while we get this permitted with the county and through SDG&E approval. So until that happens and we know exactly where everything's going to go and how it's going to be lined up, we leave the lighting for last just because we have to redo all the calculations to show that the lumens are correct and everything else. So right now we're just showing it along the perimeter, but I do understand that we will do the bug lighting and make sure that we're following all requirements and standards. And that's all I've got, Chris.
Skylar, do you want to touch base on about these units here that might be outside of the property on the SDG&E right away?
So yeah, thanks for that. So these are the switches he's referring to are SDG&E switches. Those are their trays. That's what they call a tray or four-way switch. The best thing I can describe it as is it looks like the large green boxes that you see along the city in the public right of way. While those are shown on our site right now, and that was the way it was originally intended, SDG&E has asked that those go off-site into the right-of-way, into their franchise area. So those revisions will be made when SDG&E starts their design process. We'll coordinate with them and then make sure that the county gets the updated documents.
All right, thank you. All right, so I'm going to go over. So John Eugenio and Jim Christo and I have gone to the site a couple times to check it out, along with Skylar, the engineer, and we actually got the planner to come out and also walk it with us. Some of our concerns was this in front of the property. They have a 20-year lease. They're looking to improve it. They see when they did the SDG substation, they put sidewalks in across the street. When they developed that, they had to put sidewalks in. So we're looking for a suggestion for some type of improvement here so we don't have to look or deal with this for the next 20 years. Another thing is to repair the damaged sidewalks along Avenida Delamar. In some of my supplemental photos, you can see where the existing plants and trees have lifted the sidewalk in areas and it's been patched with asphalt. He said most of the, they're going to be doing some trenching along there. So most of those sidewalks are going to have to come out anyways when they do the trenching. So that sounds like it's not going to be a big issue to do that. We did kind of identify an issue on the south property line. The residents, their property kind of just drains into this little makeshift ditch and then onto the street. So we're asking them to look at engineering a solution to, make sure their retaining wall doesn't become compromised from the water put on that wall from those properties. If those units that he just talked about are removed from the project, it would maybe allow for the sound wall to be pushed further in. Right now, it looks like they're having the sound wall right on the sidewalk. We'd like to see, or the suggestion to have 4 to 5 feet parallel to the sidewalk strip where there can be some type of, zero escape or And that leads into the next one. Requests just to look into not requiring trees inside of the sound walls because they're not going to be seen until they're, I don't know, 30 years old or something. And it'll probably just be a mess for them to water and clean up all the leaves inside there. So looking to, if it's possible, to request to waive the trees being required inside, opt for some vine to cover the outside wall to prevent graffiti from happening, and install some type of drought tolerant plant. The only water they're going to have going to this is to water the plants. And, it's about, saving the environment and sustainability. So to put in a lot of water, trees needing a lot of water and stuff, we're looking at a solution that can zero-scape to low water if possible. And also if the group's into maybe looking at the sound wall heights, I don't know if we want, 16 to 14 foot sound walls, making it look like a prison in the center of a residential neighborhood. From the sounds of it, the units aren't going to be putting much more sound than a refrigerator, and it's not going to be all the time. It's only going to be during the periods where they are producing a lot of electricity back into the grid. And so I will leave it to the group now. Let me see who has their hand raised, or Victoria, if you want to go through that.
Hello. Yeah, thank you so much for working on this project, Skylar, and thank you for Chris also for presenting. And I really appreciate that you're adding battery storage in Spring Valley. Skylar, earlier you mentioned that this was going to be better than peaker plants, and I was wondering if adding this project and the ones you mentioned earlier would possibly lead in the closure of the peaker plant in El Cajon.
Oh, well, it's a step in the right direction. I can't say that these projects specifically with this, 123 megawatt portfolio would be able to shut down that particular peaker plant, but again, it is a step in the right direction. These types of projects are, and then the more these projects are built, are going to be what drives the shutdown of a plant like that. So yes, it'll help, but no, I can't guarantee that it'll be enough to shut down that particular plant.
Okay, thank you. And then do you know if the, or maybe this is, I don't know, but do you know if the energy stored here in Spring Valley, if a majority of it would be used here?
Yeah, so electricity goes where the nearest load is. So we don't have any control over where it goes, but the fact that we're connecting at this substation and the fact that it's only, what is this, 36 megawatts? It's not going to go outside of that substation. So the local community will absolutely be benefiting from this and the discharge of this power.
Thank you so much. And then I guess this is for you, Chris. I don't think it's necessary to, I guess, get rid of the requirement to have trees. I think that native trees won't require a lot of water. And I think trees like succulents, although they are drought tolerant, they don't use a lot of water. I don't know if they're going to help with like the shade covering, with cleaning our air. And so I think it's really good to just expand our urban canopy as much as possible.
Yeah, I am definitely pro tree, and there is probably going to be a few trees that are in front of the property. Just worry about the footprint of the trees along Avenida de Lamar, compromising the sidewalk again, as they've done before. And then, yeah, so then that's a discussion, I'd like to open up to get everyone's feelings on, if there should be trees inside the walls. But thank you, Victoria. Tim?
Oh, sorry. Security concerns me a little bit. Skylar, is there anything automated? I mean, if you're going to have somebody come by that like once a month, I just worry about, no matter how tall the wall is, if there's some valuable gear, and I'm sure it's all very valuable. What kind of security, even automated, does this site have?
So we will have, it's going to be very similar to a substation. That's the best example I can use as far as AD. It is going to be locked. We will have the sound walls. We will have security systems. So we'll know what's going on the site at all times. And I mean, the best example I can use again is a substation. I mean, you don't really hear people breaking into substations too often. There's a lot of high voltage signs. People don't understand it. They know if they get in there, they're going to probably get killed if they try to steal something. There is very expensive equipment on this site, but there's not anything that weighs less than 15,000 pounds. So I'm not too concerned that anybody's going to be able to get in there and even know what they're looking at to be able to know that something's valuable and be able to steal it. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and I have one other comment, but to the group and to the public is that your website is very informative, the company website. So in addition to the material we see here today, to go out and review the company website for EnerSmart is a pretty good idea. I was pleased with a lot of the depictions there. So thanks again for that.
Thank you. I do appreciate the enthusiasm on this project from this group. This is refreshing compared to some of the other public community planning groups I've been to.
Thank you. Go ahead, Victoria.
Ed Woodruff.
Yes, you've answered a couple of questions I had. That one drainage area that's open, as far as runoff from your property, does it go into that ditch?
Yes, it hits the retainage basin first, and then yes, that goes to where the site naturally drains.
So it goes into that pond that's on your property first, and then out to this.
Correct, sir.
Okay, and then the lighting inside, is that on it all night long, or just?
So we haven't really gotten that far. It can be. We can do motion sensors. That's what we're doing at one of our current sites, to where it only comes on if there's motion inside the site. So we're open to suggest if you guys want it on all night, we can do that to deter.
Well, not necessarily. I just wonder if it was or not.
Right. No, the first site we have under construction, that one is just on motion sensors.
And then there seems to be some, I don't know what's causing this. I've heard rumors that the neighborhood around is extremely concerned that some of them have the feeling you're storing acid batteries there and all of that. So I hope they get to know what actually is there, not what they think might be there.
Yeah, and I've gotten a lot of those types of comments. So yeah, I'm happy to speak to that, or maybe present something that shows a little bit more about the lithium or the lithium iron phosphate. It's not a liquid. There cannot be any spills. It's all solid. So.
Oh, great. Well,
yeah,
thank you for coming in and presenting. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Appreciate your time.
Hey, this is Jim Cousteau. I might add that lithium iron phosphate batteries are now being used in a lot of motorhomes, and they're so well sealed that they put them right in the living space in the motorhome. They don't have to be vented outside like your old lead acid batteries.
Right.
They have excellent safety. They have battery maintenance management systems that monitor temperatures and current going in and out and prevent thermal overheat of the batteries. And then even in the rare occasion, as Skylar's indicated, they have the ability to, fire department have the ability to flood the space. And all these batteries will be constantly monitored, and they'll be alerted to any anomalies early on in an event so they can prevent it likely from becoming a fire. So that's what I understand on that part of it. So as we talked with Skylar, and as I did some of my own independent research on lithium ion sulfate batteries, it became pretty evident to me that this is a much safer, even more safe than the batteries that are in your typical Teslas and Chevy Bolts and so on.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as the neighborhood really understands that, because there's some real issues there that they think what's going in there isn't really what's going in there.
Sorry, say that again. There's concerns that what we're saying.
Well, there are a lot of neighbors in that area are concerned about when they hear battery storage, exactly what that means. So I hope that, like you say, you're going to be able to let them know this, because some of them are really concerned that, you know, you're storing, like Jim's talking about, some other type of battery than what you actually are.
Okay, yeah, happy to speak with anybody from the community or provide any sort of a presentation that will make everybody feel more comfortable and explain more of what we're doing from a layman's term basis.
Terrific, thank you.
All right, Laura?
Hi, thank you. There's a house or a building there. Are you taking that out, or is everything going between that little house and the wall on Avenida de la Mar?
Everything's going to go in between that space. It's currently just an office building. That's going to remain. The owner's going to keep that for himself. Right there on the left.
I'm sorry, this is jumping around so much.
No, I'm sorry.
That's
Yeah,
how
there you go.
it's staying there. Okay, thank you.
Totally.
The fans each produce 60 decibels.
It's around, I believe it's 65 actually.
And how many fans are you going to have?
There's one set on each battery.
So that's going to perhaps end up providing a lot of noise. Wouldn't you
It's not
say?
the sound of a refrigerator. Like I said, when you put them all together, it does, if you're speaking to a sound engineer, it does amplify, and they do put that in the model, which is what's driving the 14-foot sound wall. But
How
as
many of
modeled,
those things that have the fans in them are there?
36.
36. So that's 186 decibels, right? Nope.
No. It amplifies, but it doesn't, it's not linear. Like it's not 65 times however many units. It amplifies, but I'm not a sound engineer. I can't speak to it 100%, but it makes it louder when you have more. But again, it's not linear. It's not just doubling because you have 2 units. If that makes sense.
I'm still kind of concerned about the noise from the fans, and the lights to light the interior of the site should probably go even with the sound walls, because isn't there an apartment complex across the street from there? Does anybody remember? I don't know if it's exactly across the street or down from
They're
there.
like townhouses, I believe, but yeah.
Yeah, right across the street.
Yeah, they're 2 stories. So those people are gonna have a lot of light if they're on all the time, and if they're not lower, so that they don't reflect into the night sky. And of course,
Yeah,
they have
they
to
would
be
be
shaded,
downlight.
so that's all right. Okay.
Yeah, you know, I
Checked
think
off
we
all my
would,
boxes. Thank
you know, Laura, I think we would request that they put in, and I think Skylar mentioned that they would put in motion sensing kind of lighting, so the lighting would be off unless there was some actual activity from workers or others moving around inside the site, which would be very rare because this thing runs on its own. It doesn't really need very much access by
Yes, I've heard that already, but critters get in, you know.
They do, and I will just to kind of build on your concern.
I mean, the lights don't have to be 20 and 15 to 20 feet high. If they're the same height as the wall, then the light's not gonna go out above. It's gonna stay down onto the site, don't you think? Isn't that logical?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. The other thing too is I personally would not like to give up the landscaping. The city of San Diego requires collars be put in with trees if they have roots that go sideways a lot, to make sure that the roots go down far enough that they're not going to disturb the street or the sidewalk. We don't have that in the county, but I think that would be a good idea. And I think a tree would be appearing there far before 15 years. And the idea of like vining it, that's a fairly good idea. But if you look over here on Bancroft Drive, there's the King Arthur or something condos. They did that on the wall, and then eventually the vines got holes in them, and people, of course, decorated those up. So I like the idea of the vining of the wall, but it doesn't work after a certain number of years because it gets so thick that it pulls itself down.
It's growing back up pretty well right now after it did fall over and catch fire a few times from sofa fires, but
And we're willing to work with you guys. my concern that I brought up on the site was just the fact that, you know, this is a zero water site. We would use absolutely zero natural resources if the landscaping wasn't required. So happy to do whatever we need to do to keep the project moving forward. I was just suggesting that we try to do something xeriscape if possible. And
Well, xeriscaping wouldn't appear on Avenida de la Mar because of the 10-foot wall. But I don't think, once a tree is established, it doesn't need to be watered every week or every 2 weeks, even most of the time for a lot of trees. So especially local area trees. And I just don't see giving up our canopy for the project, because I don't think it's really necessary to do that. And I liked your landscaping plan. I thought that was very nice when I saw it. So other than that, I think all my questions have been answered. Thank you so much.
Yep, and just to kind of add to the sound too, those fans will only be operating when the batteries are either charging, discharging, and it's hotter than a certain ambient temperature outside. So when
do
these
you know how often that is?
I don't, but my point was it's going to be during the daytime that these are going to be operating at full capacity and have fans on. Whenever we charge, they're only charging 20-25% capacity. So there's no reason for those fans to be operating, and we would be charging in the off hours. So anytime after 9 o'clock.
And since Avenida de la Mar is the only escape exit for the people that live up beyond your site, and the proposed or the approved plan for 15, I believe it is, townhomes on the other side of the street. So if there was an emergency, it's conceivable that they would not have a way out. I can see that the risk from this is very low here, but you know, doo-doo happens sometimes, and it's our responsibility to try to do the best we can to make it as safe as possible for our community.
Absolutely.
So that's just a concern that I have, and it's going to bother me forever, and I hope it doesn't happen. But
so part of the UL listings on these, just to make you sleep a little bit better at night, is that I mean, even though they can catch fire, right? Nobody's denying that. The listing is that it requires that they cannot propagate to another container or anything within 5 feet of that container that's on fire. So even if one did catch, there's the likelihood that it would catch everything else on fire or anything else on fire is extremely low. They've done a large amount of testing to prove that.
like I said, after the big earthquake, when all the walls come tumbling down, never mind. It's okay.
Well, at that point, I don't think we're going to be worried about this site being on fire.
Well, after I worked in the fire service, I don't disbelieve anything about being totally safe, because it just doesn't happen.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I do appreciate your plan, and I know we do need to provide more electricity for the grid, but this can also go far away if we're not using it, right? If we have an outage, then this will go into the grid that services our areas. Isn't that what you said?
Correct. It'll support that substation. So, and just to be clear, this is not anything that can operate during an outage. It's to support the grid during strenuous times so that there aren't outages. So you don't get a brownout, so you don't get a blackout. If there is a blackout, this system goes offline just like the utility does.
Oh,
and
so
that's for
not
safety
any good
reasons.
for use in okay, well, that kind of feels bad.
You won't be
but-
able to run over there and plug your cell phone in. That's
Right. Yeah. If everybody's lost power
Darn.
in Spring Valley, yeah, this thing's
You
not
can't put
going to
little
charge your
plugs on the
phone.
outside. Okay, I hope now that I have resolved all my questions.
Okay,
Thank you
so-
very much. Appreciate your time.
I'll touch back on the tree thing. It does seem like, you know, we do want to keep the trees if that's the consensus, and I would like to see trees here too as well. I think that one of my requests was, in the suggestions, was to move the sound wall, set it back 4 to 5 feet from the sidewalk parallel all the way up. And that would make these trees along Avenida de la Mar visible from outside, if they're on the outside of the wall. And then the 4 trees in front as well. The question
And
is,
ground cover and shrubs.
the question is, these 4 trees that are proposed to be in the back of the lot inside the sound wall, when they do mature and grow higher than the sound wall, they will be blocking the view from these neighbors of like Mount Helix, and I'm not sure, you know, do we feel like these four need to be still included in the project within the sound wall, or?
Me, they do. If we're gonna continue to require landscaping of anybody, then we need to require the landscaping for everybody, you know, equal protection under the law, as they say. Yeah.
Okay, does anyone else in the group have comment about that?
Yeah,
Or-
I
or-
think I would keep it.
Can't see it, why plant it?
Yeah.
They will see it in a few years. It'll grow up in a few years.
The big deal, a tip of a tree.
You have to get the right kind of trees and make sure that they're collared down far enough so that they don't impede the sidewalk or push up the sidewalk or the roadway. I mean, City of San Diego does that all the time.
I'm just saying, if the wall's 14 feet high, there shouldn't be a tree behind it.
Is there
Right.
any way to
I know the
require it to
landscape
be a
design-
native tree?
Sorry.
I mean, it's not it's just what we request them to do. I didn't have what I could try to pull it up. I think what the county landscape person did send some comments, and I can bring those up. Sorry, 1 second here. No. Tim, how would we get a consensus of what the group would like? I'm not familiar with how we handle these.
Well,
types of-
we're not intending to take a vote on this as an informational item, but I believe that all the comments are relevant, excuse me. And I think that Skylar hopefully will get a copy of our minutes, and or also Skylar too, we're recording this, so it'll be accessible as a full meeting recording. Also too, Chris, at some point, we will see a full landscaping plan and everything else, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So at that point, the best thing to do is to take a look prior to doing that at our design guidelines, where we talk specifically a lot of the plant types, from ground cover shrubs, trees, etc., and determine the height of those trees at the back of the line. Because even though the wall's 14 feet tall, it's going to be 10 feet of brick, and it's going to be 4 feet of plexiglass, I believe. And so if the trees can be a shorter variety on that back wall, that's fine. But it'll still be a tree, and it'll still be doing the job that we want the trees to do. So I suggest that when you, Skylar, when your group working with the planner comes up with the landscaping for that back wall, is to definitely go to our design guidelines and find a species of tree that is not going to grow all that high. We're probably maybe even talking about shrubbery to some degree. All right.
I'm kind of saying if there's like a straw poll that we could do just to get a grasp of how many people want to see trees on the inside and how many don't, or is that we have to have?
Well, I mean, we can do that. I can have just, I don't know, show of hands maybe at the end of the presentation, end of the discussion, if we're just talking about the trees. And if anything, if anybody objects to the landscaping inside, we're just talking about having or not having landscaping inside, right?
I think so.
We could go down the roster and just have everybody chime in and kind of give their opinion at this point. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that. We're not taking a vote. It's just for general feedback from the group.
Okay, well, we'll do that quite at the end, but let's go ahead and get, I think there's another group member, John Eugenio has his hand up.
Okay.
And then there's 3 people from the public. So Chris, why don't you go ahead and go down that list?
Okay, will do. All right, John.
I disagree with the trees on the inside of the back wall. It's going to be a 14-foot wall with a 4-foot plexiglass see-through. And the public's not going to see those trees for probably 20 years. The outside, I agree with the outside. with that 4 to 5 foot easement you talked about, and the trees along there with some shrubbery of some sort, the ones in the front. But the back, I think that's useless.
Okay.
That's my
Thanks.
take.
And we'll do that again at the end of the questioning. Is any more members from the group want to chime in on this before we go to members of the public?
I already did mine, so.
Thank you. All right, Angelica?
I had a question on the other sites that they're building. Are any of those sites next to homes? Like the one in
Actually, yeah.
Imperial Beach and Chula Vista?
Yes.
So Los Coches is right next to a residence. Our one in Ramona is about 100 feet from the landowner's home. Chula Vista is right next to an office building. So yeah, short answer is yes.
Okay, and then this is the biggest site based
Second
on
largest.
what I was seeing. It
largest.
says
Krillman's
36.
our largest site out in Ramona, but this one's a very close second.
And is the one you said in Ramona next to homes as well?
It's next to the landowner's home. Yes.
How close are other homes besides the landowner?
That we're out in farm country on that one. So the nearest house besides his is probably half an acre away.
Okay, has there been any industrial studies, any hazardous studies on these materials?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, we've done hazard consequence analysis on both. I believe that was provided to Chris as well.
Can you share that with me? Like what it said?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to share the report with you.
I mean, just in your own words, like what is it? Is the
Oh,
show
so
any
they do. Yeah. So I'm 30,000 foot level. It's basically modeling what would happen if there was a plume of smoke, where it would go, how far it would travel, and then what needs to happen if that were to occur. That's the extent of the hazard consequence analysis.
And these batteries don't emit any kind of hazardous stuff in the air to people, or
There are
that could
chemicals
cause
that
cancer or anything of that nature?
there are chemicals that would be released in the air that you would not want to breathe. They just had one. Now the extent of that would be closing the windows and turning off ventilation. Like they're not going to evacuate homes or anything like that. There was actually an event that happened probably a month or two ago where this exact thing happened. There was a plume of smoke. They had to just notify people that were in that area that they needed to shut their windows and turn off any HVAC, but that was the extent of it.
And if they didn't, what happened to them? Because that sounds scary.
I mean, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist, so I can't tell you what happens. It wouldn't be any different if a gas station catches on fire, right? You don't want to breathe that stuff either. I can get you the study that outlines what it does, but I can't answer your question. I don't have enough knowledge on that.
Okay, because my concern is why put these things next to homes, and just in case these things happen, you know.
Understood. A lot of
you
it's, I wish that we could put these things anywhere. Unfortunately, it is relevant to the location of the substation. If you'll notice on all of these, you can pretty much see a substation right next to each one. So that's kind of what drives the location.
Okay, and then you also mentioned that, like Laura had said, if we had a blackout, because I felt like, Laura, if we had a blackout, that's what your power was going to be for, to give us power in Spring Valley. So I'm just kind of concerned, what is the purpose?
So the purpose is to prevent that power from ever going out because of brownouts or anything. So right now, if you have, it happened, I believe, a month ago down here in San Diego, they were giving the notices to turn off your air conditioner and everything else after 4 o'clock, or they were shutting off power voluntarily themselves. This will help avoid those scenarios. But no, it will not provide backup power in the event of a grid outage. That would
Skylar, you had mentioned how we sell power when we overproduce. I don't know.
I don't know if we. I know it goes to other states. I don't know how, but I know I don't know if we sell or not.
Oh,
but yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I don't know. I don't know how they do that. That's way above my pay grade, but I do know that there is current power from solar that's being exported elsewhere.
Okay,
I'm
that's all I
sorry.
had.
Okay. All right. Malcolm.
Can we go back to the site plan that showed where the pond is? There we go. So you're going to have a holding pond, and if I heard you correctly, that SDG&E wants their equipment in the SDG&E right of way, which would be outside of the perimeter wall. Is that correct?
Correct, sir. Yes.
So that wall,
It would be on the opposite side of Avenida
On
de
the
la
other side of the
Mar.
street.
yeah,
It'd be on the substation side.
At
Yeah.
the substation.
so there would be utilities running underneath the street. So that there is the ability then to move that wall back a few feet to get a line that you could plant appropriate vegetation around that sound wall without any difficulty. And then what might suggest is, if you're creating a holding pond, why don't you put a filtration system on there and use that for supplemental irrigation for any vegetation that's there. And then along with that, I might suggest for the property owners that where you're putting up the 10-foot high sound wall with the 4-foot high view panels. Yeah, for a total of 14 feet, move that wall a few feet in, talk to the owners of those properties that are going to be impacted to see what type of vegetation they would be amenable to along that particular area of the property. That's what Verizon Wireless did with us when they were putting a tower in. They came to us and said, we want to put a tower here, and we said, okay, plant this many trees and and put them right here in this particular area. They did it. And yeah, it may be that if you start out with 5-gallon or 25-gallon tubs for the trees, it's going to take a while, but you can ask for specimen trees to be planted as part of this project. There's no reason why that cannot be done. So just an observation that you could very easily take care of that if you're not having to deal with the SDG&E equipment. If it's going to be over on their substation side, then more power to you. No pun intended.
So let me start. I think your first comment was the reclamation of the water. So I mean, I can talk with our civil engineers. We have talked about this on some other sites, but in reality, it doesn't rain enough out here to be able to capture anything and justify being able to actually use that and pump it back in. What we'd have to put in there to do that, my understanding is the cost outweighs the benefits.
Well, my suggestion would be it would be supplemental, since it's going to be gathering, and if you're using it in doing some sort of filtration and disturbing of the water to keep mosquitoes from laying eggs in the wet material, you will be a big welcome addition to the neighborhood. I'm not saying that there's enough water to deal with the amount of vegetation on a regular basis, but it is a supplemental, and I would suggest maybe perhaps putting some solar panels in an area that collect the sun, so that would be facing southwest, and that would be more than sufficient, I think, to do a low volume pump to put a drip irrigation system through some of these areas.
I don't think we'll get enough water. We'll get enough rain.
It'll just take a little while. It'll probably get used once every 8 or 9 years. So the second comment on the sound wall moving in. So as we move these, as we move this closer to the batteries, my understanding is that the wall would have to get taller. So if we do take a look at what you're proposing and moving that in and then doing the landscaping on the outside, that 14-foot could turn into 18-foot. So I'm not saying that's
well.
I just did want to outline that.
I do understand the whole concept of sound mitigation, because I was involved in some of the sound mitigation issues for State Route 125, so which is much noisier than these things. But what I'm saying is that right now you have this clearance from the wall to this equipment. If this equipment is no longer there, you have the ability to move it.
No, yeah, the south.
You're only.
I was talking about the wall on the right side of the screen right now. Sorry, not the south. Yes,
Yeah,
the one down south on the south side of the screen right now. Yes, we're going to move that in because that equipment will go to the other side, and then absolutely we'll move that landscaping on the outside of the wall where it makes sense. On the one on the right side of the screen right now, as you look at it, that's the one I was talking about. If we move that one in to do the landscaping for the residents, like you requested, that it would have to get taller, which isn't a problem. I just wanted to note that. And, and I'm happy to talk to the neighbor there and see if they're see what they would like to see.
That goes a long way if you have that discussion with them. If you explain it just like you explained it to me, and show them when you move it closer, in order to mitigate the sound, it has to go higher. Then they go, okay, they weigh the options, and there are things that you can, types of vegetation that you can plant along through there that would be tree-like, that would absorb a lot of noise. But I can tell you, just by having a cell tower behind me with backup power and AC up for the equipment room there, I don't hear it. You know, once in a while, maybe. If all the power goes out, then I know that that generator goes on. I know that it's a big outage. So
we noticed there was a lot of road noise just going down Lamar Street. So it was pretty loud just hearing that. Okay. Was there anything else, Malcolm?
No, that was pretty much it. I mean, it just hit me that you're going through the process of building a holding pond. If you're building a holding pond, you got to be able to use that at some point in time. So.
Thank you. Sebastian. You're muted.
Hey, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I wanted to offer some words about the trees because I heard a lot of just different comments and concerns raised about them. If you're planting locally appropriate native trees for the area, specifically native trees, you're not going to have any concern about it disrupting like sidewalks and that kind of stuff. They've evolved to grow roots straight down into the ground in search of groundwater. They're fantastic city street trees. A tree such as like a coast live oak would be a really great choice. And we live in the most biodiverse county in the United States. So there's a lot of really great options for local pure species of trees. Coast live oak's probably your best bet, but you also have like toyon. Lemonade berries can be hedged and pruned to many different sizes. And they're extremely drought tolerant because they've evolved here for thousands and millions of years. So you really don't need supplemental irrigation for those kinds of plants. The most important thing is just that they're established properly. And those, I forgot exactly what they're called, but like the root girdles or the rings to put around trees, they're definitely unnecessary for native trees. So yeah, I think it's just, if you guys stick to local native trees, staying away from cultivars, hybrids, non-native plants, you're gonna gain all the benefits and avoid any of the issues that a lot of other non-native street trees have posed on the sidewalk. Thank you.
And you don't call it Spring Valley for nothing. The groundwater there is pretty close to the surface, as I recall.
All right, John, I saw your hand up. Do you still
I took it down.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else have anything? It looks like your hand's still up, Sebastian, but I think we'll go to the suggestions, and I don't know, for the sake of time, do we just try to run through like a yes or no kind of like how you're feeling on it? Is that what we should do, Tim?
There's 7 items that might take a while, and I thought we were just, the main concern was the tree landscaping situation.
Okay, then I guess probably just the sidewalk along the front and the trees, for now. 'Cause
Okay.
The question is, I mean, I would like to see sidewalks along the frontage, but the entire APN, because who knows of what's gonna happen to the other part of the APN. There is a cost issue with, you know, if it becomes too costly for the project, I don't, we can touch base with that, but what do we ask for? Do we ask for sidewalks along just the improved part of the APN or the entire length of the APN? I just wanted to get a straw poll of the group of how they feel about sidewalks. If we can just go down the line, Jesse.
You bet. Laura Lowe's. Laura?
She's muted.
And I think this is,
Sorry, I was
this is
muted.
kind of a yay and nay on whether to do the entire APN.
Yeah, if no sidewalks at all, sidewalks just along the improved APN or sidewalks along the entire APN?
Well, I believe the county's probably gonna make them do that because remember we requested all of Lamar Street B sidewalks, so they will probably make the proponent go ahead and sidewalk it anyway.
Okay.
But
What
yeah, I
what
think
is-
sidewalks should be there,
The entire or just the improved?
the entire length of the property.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Next.
For me, it's a yes, and I just want to chime in on the height. It seems like maybe a good idea to have a higher wall closer to the facility, and that way you could fit trees on the exterior. But I'm a yes
Entire or improved?
on the entire.
Okay.
Yes, on the entire.
All right. I'm entire. Next.
Next is Roger. He's absent. John.
I got some concerns with the sidewalk because of that drainage that's out in front. Where are you gonna put the sidewalk? I don't think, you're not gonna put it in the middle of the street or take the street away. It would have to go over where that drainage is, so I don't think a sidewalk is necessary.
But don't we have isn't that a flood control ditch and they're all along there, so the county. can
Well, yeah,
certainly
where are you gonna
sidewalk
put
it.
the sidewalk?
All right. It's
Over
poorly
it.
maintained, so Public Works should probably have to come and get involved.
That's gotta be the public works issue for them to, whether they want a sidewalk there or they want the drainage there.
Well, they could actually have both because the stormwater people have come up with ways to mitigate by actually having permeable concrete for the sidewalks. They could fill that in with gravel or whatever, like they're planning for along Campo Road for the revitalization project. So there's a number of ways that the stormwater people are now thinking about how do we still gather stormwater and yet have it a useful space for walking, parking, whatever. So if we do the whole APN, we can still go back to public works and say, okay, what are you going to do about this? And they may have an option at this time or a number of
I think
options.
that's a different issue, Tim. That shouldn't be part of this program.
John, they also made it work for the SDG&E substation. There's probably a ditch there a long time ago, and now it's sidewalks. So I think it can be done.
And having that pond on the property, they could probably fully complete that culvert as far as the corrugated piping and then just fill it in.
Okay. We'll go to the next one. We got you down for no, John.
Yep.
So John's no. Scott Harris is absent. Scott Schaefer.
Entire.
Entire. Okay.
Yes. Rod Gibbons.
Entire.
Chris Pearson is absent. Jim Cousteau. Jim Cousteau.
No, you're muted. Jim.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, put sidewalks along the entire area and underground that drainage. And I'd like to see the wall get set back and we can do some kind of vegetation, small trees on the outside. And I would do away with the trees along the south property line.
We're gonna do that next. So we're just doing the sidewalks right now to get a a gauge, but thank you.
Jim, I got a yes. Victoria Brenica,
Entire.
Ed Woodruff,
Entire.
Bob Edley,
Entire.
Tim Snyder.
Entire.
Perfect. So I've got 10 yes, 1 no, 3 absent, 1 vacant.
Okay.
Next, we'll go to the setback. So, I'm sorry, so something? Okay, so are we asked for a 4 to 5 foot setback with trees landscaped along the entire as proposed, except for inside on the outside? So yes or no for that, and then a yes or no for trees inside the rear. Does that make sense?
No, I'm sorry. Could you run through that one more time for me for the minutes, please?
So the first yes or no is going to be for a setback with the trees as described in the landscape plan outside of the sound wall. The second one is if the 4 trees should be required inside the sound wall.
So is that first option with the higher wall?
The first option is a setback.
It's just a setback. He said the higher wall would be on the south property line.
Okay, perfect. So Tiffany Gonzalez absent, Laura Lowe's for the first option. Laura Lowe's.
Did we lose her? It looks like we lost her.
I'll come back to her. I'm a yes. Chris Pierce.
What about for the inside trees?
Oh, I thought it sounded like you wanted to do that separately. So I was going to do this and then run through it again for the.
Okay, if that's easier for you, we can do it that way. You're a yes. I'm a yes.
Well, this is informal, right? So I guess it's just like a straw poll. So tell me what you want to do. You're just running them together.
I think it'd be quicker just to run it together.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, either way, I'm a yes for both.
Okay.
Or are you back on?
You're a yes for trees inside.
In the second option is for trees outside, right?
No.
Sorry, I'm trying to take notes here and
sorry about that. So the second question is, would you like to see trees inside of the sound wall on the south property line, the 4? Or
no.
Or are they not required?
Yeah.
So you're
no. If the wall no, it doesn't seem no on the tree inside of the wall.
Okay, thank you. I'm a yes for the setback and a no for the trees inside.
Okay, give me a second. Yes, no, okay. I'm caught up. We have Rogers absent, John Eugenio.
I agree with the 13 trees on the outside of the wall if it is a 3 to 5 foot setback, but I disagree with the 4 trees on the inside on the back wall.
Okay.
That's a yes or no. Scott Harris is absent. Scott Schaefer.
Yes and yes.
Yes and yes. Okay.
Rod Gibbons.
No and no.
No and
okay.
No. Chris Pearson.
He's
absent. Jim Cousteau.
That'd be yes and yes.
Yes and yes. Victoria Abrenica.
Yes, yes.
Ed Woodruff.
Yes and yes.
Bob Ebley.
Yes, no.
And Tim Snyder.
Yes and yes.
Can I ask the question? What is the yes and yes on?
The first yes was putting trees in the setback.
Yes.
And the second yes was to have trees inside, yes. To have trees inside on the back is no.
I just wanted to verify that the yes was on the setback and the yes was on the trees.
On the inside, yes.
I guess if you're gonna have the trees, you're gonna have to have the setback.
It looks like we're tied on the back.
Okay.
I guess I can work with Skylar to try to figure out a solution to unless Laura's back.
Were we able to add what Laura Lowe said previously in the meeting to the unofficial straw vote or straw poll?
No, don't recall it. We'd have to look at minutes, which we really can't do at this point.
I mean, if we talk to the property owners and get a gauge if they want trees blocking their views of Mount Helix and stuff like that, or is this, you know, I also a thing I think about trees inside of the property is just them, they're gonna have to go in there to maintain them, and the leaves are just gonna be getting junked up in the equipment, maybe lessening the life of the equipment. I don't know, or you know.
I mean, you got 13 trees on the outside already.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think we got enough to kind of give them a general sense. I mean, and they still have a ways to go before this thing's ready to come back for any kind of final approval, and then we can hash it out then.
Yeah, I agree.
They have to figure out that ditch along the back of the property anyway, so maybe the retaining wall gets, I mean, the sound wall retaining wall gets higher. Maybe there's bushes that could be between the property, like someone suggested, Malcolm suggested. We'll look at some other options and bring them back to the group.
Yeah, and Chris, if you can just wait till Jesse provides those minutes and then provide that vote to Skylar, that'd be great.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, is that the end of this item?
Did you have anything else, Skylar?
No, sir. I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you for hearing me out. And yeah, we'll get all these things addressed. It probably will be longer than 30 days or until the next meeting, just because of all the items that we've got to look at here. But we'll get all these things addressed and get back to you guys for review.
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Now, I got something before you go, Tim.
Oh, yeah.
I want to thank Tim. I want to thank Chris for taking this on. I knew it was going to get a lot of concerns with the vegetation, and I thought what they planned, what they showed here tonight was a pretty good idea what should be done. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, John.
Now, the fourth item in informational is about the recommendation for approval for the Climate Committee Award for Spring Valley. This was mostly just, this is what is happening. There's no one here from the Climate Action Plan with us tonight, I don't think. And I just did this to tell you there's a council meeting on October 27th, and it's going to be virtual. It's a state meeting, but they would like input from the public or even members of the group. So I'm going to be attending and see what this is all about. But it sounds like a really positive thing. And the stakeholder groups involved are probably going to get an award to start doing some planning. And the description here is fairly self-explanatory. I don't think we really have time this evening to describe it, but I would say the best thing to do is to attend that meeting 2 days from now, if you can, based on scheduling, and to get a good idea about the Strategic Growth Council's recommendation. Okay.
Can I just give a brief, try to really quick synopsis?
Oh yeah,
of
go right ahead, Chris. And Chris actually works with one of the stakeholder groups, so he's probably as knowledgeable as anybody in our group about this. So if you would, Chris, thanks.
All right, so the county got with the Spring Valley Community Alliance, and they asked us to get with some community groups. And so we worked with the Spring Valley Chamber of Commerce, the Bancroft Center for Sustainability, San Diego Youth Services, San Ysidro Health, and Bikes to Pueblo to apply for this transformative climate communities grant to work on ways to improve sustainability in our neighborhood. The first part of this grant is a planning grant in the amount of $300,000. And the application that the county submitted with us received top ranking, the highest ranking of all the other 20 applicants. And so on Thursday, they're pretty much going to vote to give the top 10 applicants the $300,000 planning grant. And this will be able for us to come out to the community and look on how to create like a community land grant where they can work on low-income housing or maybe a historical district, looking at improving our biking infrastructure with Bikes of Pueblo, offering a health clinic through San Isidro Health, improving business district with Chamber of Commerce, training people in sustainability at San Diego Youth Services to like install solar, and community gardens with the Bancroft Center for Sustainability. The Spring Valley Community Alliance is going to, with the money in this planning grant, is going to be coming out, reaching out to the community and having forums to get as much community input as we can. So just, you'll be hearing a lot from us, and we encourage everyone to come and participate. After the planning of this is done, the next part is the implementation, which could be millions of dollars brought into Spring Valley to implement these grants. So thank you. You're muted, Tim.
Yeah, I don't mean to impede any comments coming from the public or the group, but if there's just any quick questions to Chris about this, okay. Anybody in the group have their hand up? Okay, and then let's see if anybody from the public. I don't see anybody from the public. I would suggest strongly to attend the meeting on the 27th. I'm not sure if it's during the day hours for anybody who's working, but I'm definitely going to be on board on the call or the virtual meeting to see if it's appropriate or advantageous for a public comment. Thank you, Chris, for covering that. Let's go to item 5. We have a vacancy. County Council has determined that even though we have an election in 2 weeks, that we go ahead and do the standard vacancy processing. So I have posted it at the community center and at the library physically, and then I've also posted it on Nextdoor and Facebook on our Facebook site. And we'll be accepting candidates for that. And these can be candidates that are on the election on November 8th. Of course, if you already have a seat, why would you be applying for another seat? But just to let people know from the public that are on the election on November 8th, that you can apply for this seat as well. And as soon as we get a candidate slate, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, as soon as we get a candidate slate, then we will schedule a vote. Okay.
Is
Right.
there cutoff?
That's what we've done in the past, and typically we leave it open for a month or a little longer. We haven't set a cutoff date on it, I don't believe. And the other thing I would recommend, Tim, is on the future agendas, put the link to the application at the county at the PDS website, so that folks can just click on that.
Right. I was going to do that, but we were still formulating the agenda and I had to post it, and I didn't get this clearance from County Council until yesterday.
Okay.
So it'll be on the future ones. Yeah. Angelica, to your question, not only are we having an election on November 8th, but it's actually not certified until December 8th. So you might be sitting around for a month waiting to see if you've won a seat, when you could have been applying for this seat 5 anyway. You can do both. Okay.
Now, can you tell me if the seat that I'm running for, when does it expire compared to this seat?
Well, actually, you're running for one of 7 seats.
Right, but when does those seats expire? Like if I was to get one of those
that's a great
seats,
question. Yeah, because seat 5, I think, is
it expires in January of 2025.
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
So when does the seat that I'm applying for expires?
That's a great question.
27.
No, I don't think so. I think
Is it in 4 years?
No, don't you?
The seats are 4-year terms. So if you win election in November, you would be seated in 23 of January 23.
So it'll be 27.
Yes,
Well, no,
January 27.
Doesn't, if she were to win it, whoever wins it, wouldn't they be filling the rest of Roger's vacancy?
That's not what I was referring to. I was referring to if somebody wins the election on November 8th.
Oh, sure, that's 4 years. That's 4 years.
Yes, that would be 4 years. And this would be if somebody that is selected by our group through a group vote to replace Roger on seat 5, that would be for the remainder of Roger's term, which ends January 25.
2025, yeah. So my question would be, if I applied for that vacant seat and got it, and then also got elected to the seat, I would have to resign seat 5.
That would seem rational. That would seem rational, yes.
Okay, because I didn't know if I would be taken off the election ballot if I was to get.
No, you would definitely not. You're definitely not taking off the election ballot.
And I don't believe we're going to be at the point where we're going to take a vote before
the year, the end of the year.
Yeah, it's not
close. It's going to be close because we're going down. Yeah, we're only going to have one meeting in November and one meeting in December.
Because my suggestion would be to not make a decision on seat 5 until after the election and after the appointment. So that way, whoever didn't get the seat can apply for it.
Well, except that county council said to go ahead and act as if there wasn't an election.
Right, but I'm saying you can have people apply for it, but not close it off until the beginning of the year.
I'm going to wait and see when and if there are. Yeah, I'm not sure about that, Jim, because
without putting you on the spot, Tim, I think the timing of all this as we go through the process, it'll probably work out okay to what you're requesting, Angelica. Okay.
May I offer a suggestion? So, because keep in mind, right, even though if we say somebody applies for this open seat, we vote for it, it's that person still does not sit until they've completed their training and then Board of Supervisors has voted on it. So the idea that all that would happen before, the election's ratified, I think if, for example, someone, and I'm just going to use Angelica's name just as convenience here, if you were to apply for seat 5, and in one of our following meetings, we put you as seat 5, but you had won in the election. I think one of those processes, which is, hey, the Board of Supervisors isn't going to put you on the agenda for seat 5. They're going to put you with the rest of the electors. I think that would be the process where that get remedied.
Yeah. And again, you're going to know not necessarily Tuesday night, 2 weeks from today, but not long after, whether or not you one of those 7 seats. And I don't think we're going to be at a point where we vote between now and November 8th. So it's going to be the first meeting in December, a whole month later.
Right.
So I think you should be comfortable with the timing.
Okay.
Okay.
And you'll send out how to apply for the seat, right?
Yeah, actually, I can send that to you. It's on the county website under the, is it under the chair tools, I think?
Yeah, if
Jim?
you get a chance, send it to me, please.
Okay. I'll do that. I'll make a note to send it to you tomorrow morning. All right.
I would do is maybe, Tim, you could send out an email to everybody that's on our distribution list saying the seat's open and say, if you know of anybody or you're interested, here is the link to the application. Please fill out the application, submit it to you.
Jim, don't send it to nobody else. I'm just kidding.
Well, it goes to the chair.
Not really.
Yeah, the chair gathers them all, and then once we've gathered them and we've closed the application period, then we bring them forward for a vote.
Right.
By the group.
When are we saying that we're closing the application period now? Are we not setting that yet?
Well, we don't say anything until we get some candidates applying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, our bylaws are that whole thing's a little bit squishy. There's no clear absolute guidelines. And so in the past, I think we had several appointments during my chairship last year. Mm-hmm. And what I did was left it open until I had 3 or 4, 5 applicants in a couple of cases, and put out a notice that then we're going to hold the election. We're setting the deadline now. This date, any applications received after this date will not be considered. And then we held the election.
And that's going to be definitely sometime after the election.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't see us doing it. It's even going to be tight doing it in December.
Okay.
It's because we're only going to probably have one meeting in December. So it may very well come down to we have the election in January.
Right.
Thank you.
And that's just, guessing right at this point.
Angelica, you done with your questions? I think
Yes,
she's.
I am. Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jesse, you had a question?
Yes, just on that note, I was wondering if anybody has the most recent copy of the bylaws, because I remember at one point we voted to have it so that once we announced the vacancy formally, that it would remain open for 2 meetings, and then we would vote after that second meeting on the 3rd meeting.
Yeah. And again, that would take us into the December meeting, and that's plenty of time for Angelica to know, or any candidate that's on the ballot in 2 weeks, to know whether or not they've been elected by the general election, and to be able to apply, and to do it ahead of time. And then we'll just work it out. Again, we seem to have pretty good contact with County Council through Jessica Turner regarding these questions, since it is somewhat unique or rare. And I'm not worried about leaving off candidates based on the timing, because I think we're going to be pretty good. That answer your question, Jesse? I think it does, because he's muted. Okay.
No question. No, just wanted to add that. Yep. Thank you for the clarification.
Thanks a lot. Let's talk about the PLDO list. We're running out of time here this evening. We have to, by the bylaws, we have to close off at 10 o'clock. So I wanted to let you know that I sent out to all of you on the group access to the documentation regarding funding, where the money comes from, where the money goes for BLDO. I have can you all see this Word document? Was that a yes?
Yes, looks good.
Okay, so the 21-22 list is in front of you. This is the 22-23 is from comments we had, I think, a couple of meetings ago. My discussion with the folks at Parks and Rec, Emily Hubbard there. For example, she talked about the rubberized surface that put it on our PLDO list, put it on as a high priority item. The more community gardens, they just got a grant to pay for the entire community garden setup at Calavo Park. So definitely there to push for more of that, more gardens. As far as the trees, she says they're always doing trees. I know they're not doing it as fast as we would like. So I still think we need to have trees on our list. The Sweetwater Loop Trail is on the countywide list, right, Chris? That's definitely there. That's the 5-year plan that goes out to like 27, but it's definitely there. But again, emphasize it through number 4. And then the last 4 were things that seem to be popular with our group, but not necessarily of the scale of a 1 through 4 position, but more like 5 through 7. Now, one thing we have not addressed before is recreational programming, and talking about things we'd like to have people do. So going back to our priorities, gardening, composting classes, learning to skateboard for the skate park and the skating opportunity at Calavo. Guided hikes, again, that covers the loop trail and trails like Dictionary. Fitness introduction on park equipment. We've noticed that even at a small park like Ildica, that we have fitness equipment there. And it would be nice if we had some way for people to get a little bit of training on that equipment to make it useful for them. And subsequently, number 5, senior exercise programs as well. So these are things that I picked out of looking at other parks and other programs that the other parks have by going to the Parks and Rec website. And what I wanted to do tonight was to get a vote on whether or not this 7-point list for 22-23 is workable or not. And then get that back to the county. You have to get that back to Parks and Rec by the 30th of November. So I think Victoria, you had your hand up first. Go ahead.
Yes. So I have like a wish list, which is like replace the wood chips at the rubberized surface at Lamar Park, which is already on that list. Planting more native trees in our parks, adding community gardens in our parks, adding community fridges and food pantries, having a community pool, green spaces with educational signage, public restrooms in our park, planting more nectar plants, and having murals that capture our community's culture and wildlife. And then for programming, gardening, composting, cooking, and art classes.
Okay.
And if there's a way to boost the ADA one a little higher, just because I think like from like an equity standpoint, it might be nice to just bump that a little higher for folks.
Right. And I'm not quite sure how we should do this tonight. We probably will end up, we got between now and the 30th to revamp this finally, but everybody has their priority list. How do you feel about these 7 items in general, as far as answering enough of your list to satisfy your personal position?
I think adding public restrooms would be good because not all of our parks have public restrooms.
Okay. You want me, how about if I move that, make a new number 5? Okay.
And then this could be lower, but I think like a community pool would be really good, especially how hot it is in Spring Valley. I know we have like a county cooling zone, and yeah, I don't know where that would go on the list, but.
Well, we can have up to 10.
Okay.
I mean, the biggest thing about the pool is that I'm hard pressed to see. Yeah. That's a good point.
What I was gonna bring up. She stole my.
Yeah. Well, the thing is about a pool is that I don't think there is any pool at any of our parks otherwise, right?
No pools that I know of.
Yeah. And so maybe making it 9 or 10, the park people would probably laugh at our expense, but we need to, it's a good idea, and why not have it on there? We got enough private pools in this community. So why not look forward to having a public pool? Okay. And just kind of leave it at that.
Does anybody know if the pool at Mount McGill or Monte Vista are ever open to the public? I know they used to have some swim classes and exercise classes.
A long time ago they did. I haven't
So maybe it should be explore partnership with Grossmont Union High School District to use high school pools for public access.
I love that idea. I don't know if it'll be difficult because there are minors, and so I don't know if that would affect like the times that we could access the pool.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it would affect, but I mean, if you want to try to get something done, that might be a good intermediary to maybe moving somewhere down the line to getting the county to consider actually investing in pools. I don't know that they've invested in pools anywhere in the entire county. So this would have to be a whole new thing, and public pools are very expensive to build.
Yeah, and operate.
And staff.
I don't want to distract from having an aquatic center like at the Bancroft Elementary multi-purpose lot. They did do a bit. Roland Slade said that there was an agreement before that we could use the pools, but that since handshake's been, taken back. So I would prefer just to requests an aquatic center be built in Spring Valley instead of relying on the high schools.
Right. Yeah, I'll make it an or item on there. And again, I'm pretty sure we'll end up in discussion with the parks people.
Tim, earlier you said that the meeting has to end at 10. Can I motion to extend the meeting by like 15 minutes?
It's we're already in the extension. We're in the 9:30 to 10 extension right now, unfortunately.
Can't.
And
Okay.
yeah, thank you. It's in
Gotta
our
read section 3 of the rules.
yeah, it's in
I
our
just want to
bylaws.
make sure that everyone else is able to speak tonight.
Yep. I tell you what, Jim, as far as the last item on the agenda, not to speak out of turn, which is the traffic situation.
Yeah, it's probably about 2 minutes for me tops.
We can go to that and then I can table this and keep the agenda very light on the November 8th meeting. And that we'll still have plenty of time to get this back to the county by November 30th.
That might be smart. That way we're not
Yeah.
trying to rush this thing.
Now,
through.
everybody has this. So, please.
Are we still going to allow the public who has their hands raised right now to speak, just in case they don't come to the November meeting? So
Well, if I table it, it'll come back to the agenda anyway.
My hand.
Oh, thank you, Angelica. If I table it, it'll come back in 2 weeks anyway. I just suggest members of the public that are interested in this topic to please be here in 2 weeks, and that'll be the best way to do it, so that we can get to Jim's item because it's about traffic. Yeah, we'll get this done, Victoria. I'm sure we will, and we're gonna get it done long before the 30th of November. But this deserves more time than I can give it tonight, which is only 12 minutes. Okay.
Thank you. I just see like our Spring Valley Parks and Rec manager's like on this call, and I think he's been waiting like
Oh, is he? Is he?
3 hours and 48 minutes. So I
Well,
don't know if he was going to speak or something. Or
No,
if there's-
I was not under the impression he's on this call.
I see just a message from Sebastian that he would like to have a moment to speak because he's been on all day waiting.
Okay, Jim, what happens if we put your traffic off until 2 weeks from now?
It's too late. The meeting is Friday.
Okay, Sebastian, would it be all right with you if we bring this back in 2 weeks?
Can he just have 2 minutes to say something? We still have 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, okay, we're gonna be close, but go ahead, Sebastian. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you, because members of the public have been here, all night, made the time in their schedule to attend the meeting. So it'd be nice if they could have the time to comment. Like priority lists are really important. I think being in a city with an extreme lack of tree cover, so like having more trees in the city being a top priority would be really important. Moving towards a future with climate change, biodiversity loss, and the heat effect. So trees, and then anything to get, I think, the community engaged with each other and engaged with nature would be fantastic. I think like gardening would be really cool, like something that I really enjoyed as a kid, and I think other youth would really enjoy that as well. And then just thinking about the pandemic, public restrooms were like a serious something that was like not very readily accessible throughout the pandemic, and that's definitely like a health and safety issue. So I think in ensuring that public restrooms are accessible to people and more are available to people would be a really good thing on the priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment from the public? Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and table this. Is there any discussion on that?
Nope.
Till 2 weeks from now, we'll try to keep that agenda light so we can get this completed and back to the county. All right.
Yep.
So I'm going to stop the share. We're going to talk next about San Diego County Traffic Advisory Council is considering radar certification on Homicide Road from Osage to Sweetwater Road, a distance of 7/10 of a mile. And Jim is the presenter. Jim, go right ahead. I'll stop my share. I think I have you as a co-host. No, I don't yet. So you do now. Jim, you're muted.
Share
there you go.
screen. There we go. Share. All right, everybody see that?
Yep.
So this is the stretch of road from Osage down. It's kind of on the western part of Spring Valley, heading up from 125 to the west, up to where Hammershire Road becomes Paradise Valley Road as it gets up to the past the intersection at the top. And periodically we do the TAC, I'm no longer on TAC, pending potential appointment by District 4. And so they look at all the conditions of the road. And what I tend to look at, and many of us on the committee in the past have looked at, is if you look here at, let me blow this up a little bit. If you look the speeds in 2022, unfortunately, this has been going on a lot in the county, especially in our area. Notice the difference in speeds between 2015 and 2022. They try to do them at a similar time of day, similar conditions, weather-wise, and so on. So you can see the pace has increased. This is a pretty significant increase here. And the part that concerns me the most is there have been 111 reported collisions, 37 of which involved injury in the 3 years from 2019 to 22. These collisions result in an segment accident rate of 8.09 collisions per million miles of travel. And you're going, well, that doesn't mean anything to me. Well, when you look at the statewide average for a similar roadway, suburban divided 4-lane roadway, speeds of less than 55 miles an hour, the average in the state is 1.18. This is probably the most egregious, terrible collision rate that I've seen on any of the roadways that we've done radar recertification on in the 3 years I was associated with the Traffic Advisory Committee. So, and I believe they're suggesting that this could be recertified to 45 miles an hour. Let me get, yeah, it's probably at the very top. Yes, so this is currently posted at 45. We look at this first paragraph. A preliminary review of the roadway conditions could support radar recertification of 45 miles an hour. I would like our planning group to go on record as suggesting the speed limit due to very high accident rate be lowered to 40 miles an hour if it can be done with and stay within the state standards. I believe it can, and I would request that to the TAC. Additionally, I would like our planning group to support an investigation of this section of roadway to see if there, and to review the types of collisions and see if there's any kind of engineering changes that could be made to the stretch of roadway to help reduce and mitigate the high accident rate. And I'd like to have support from our planning group. That's my motion.
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Is there any, we're running out, we got like 5 minutes left. Is there any comment from the group or the public on this? Okay, then Jesse, if you would, go ahead and take a vote, please.
Yes, spare with me 1 second here. Okay, we have Tiffany Gonzalez is absent. Laura Lowe's.
Think she's absent as well now.
Lost her.
Okay, I am a yes. Chris Pierce.
Yes.
That was a yes.
Roger's vacant.
Okay. I didn't hear
Yeah,
Chris.
that was a yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Rogers out. John Eugenio.
Yes.
Yes. Scott Harris is absent. Scott Schaefer.
Yes.
Yes. Rod Gibbons.
Yes.
Chris Pearson is absent. Jim Cousteau.
Yes.
Victoria Brenica,
Yes. Are we voting on the, I'm thinking we're voting on this. I thought this was just a report.
No,
It's actually an action item to support.
Reducing
our-
speed to
Okay,
40 miles
okay.
an hour and to investigate the engineering solutions to the high accident rate.
Yes.
perfect. Sorry, I was checking the agenda. Yeah. Edward Wardruff, just for
Yes.
correction, because I think that perfect. Okay. Bob Ebley,
Yes.
yes. Tim Snyder,
Yes.
perfect. So we have 10 yeses, 0 nos, 4 absent, and 1 vacant.
Okay, great. Sounds like it passes. Probably be good, Tim, if you join the meeting to represent our group as the chair.
Yeah, I plan to do it. I already have it on my schedule.
Good. All right, great.
Okay. And so now we're down to, I'm going to actually stop your share, Jim. And Jesse, do we have the minutes ready for those last 2 meetings, or it can still be put off to the November 8th? I just wanted to see if you had them really quick.
Yes, I do have the September 27th minutes. Those are the ones that need approval first. I need the video for the last meeting, the October 11th meeting, to get the minutes done for that. And the meetings for tonight are, work in progress. They're being prepared.
Right. Has the group seen the 27th and the 11th? Probably not, right?
No,
No.
I haven't seen them. I think we just table it until the next meeting.
Right,
Get it done.
Great.
Yeah. And again, I'm gonna have to table group business as well, unless there's something that is urgent. There's no new projects right now. And the next meeting is November 8th, and it is now 21:58. So unless there's anything that anybody wants to contribute,
I would
Tim.
like to add something.
oh,
Tim,
go ahead.
Is there any way we can move the PLDO to the top of our
Yes,
next
it will.
meeting?
I'll make it first.
Right, all table items automatically become first action items.
Thank you so much.
Tim,
Yes.
all I want to do is you should take a look at the Spring Valley Community Planning Group Rules of Order and pay particular attention to Article 2, membership maintenance. That's all I have.
Oh, okay. Take a look at it.
Tim, you can add Rod's job to the projects for next meeting.
I'm sorry. Thank you. That's which
That's,
one?
3 homes over there on Indica.
Oh, in Ildica. Great. Thank you. All right. Is there anything else at 21:59?
That's it.
We get paid overtime tonight?
Right.
Half
Double,
hour.
double our regular pay?
Double the regular pay,
Perfect.
but you triple.
More perfect.